Chapter 527 Light of a Firefly. Chapter 527 Light of a Firefly. Xian Yi and the other two exchanged glances and lamented internally. The auras of the golden cores from those three sects were extremely strong. A single person from the other parties could easily go against the three of them. The Paragons leading them looked even more formidable. Xian Yi and the other two had explored outside before and naturally knew that they were in a dangerous situation. As such, they did not dare to act recklessly. When everyone's gazes turned towards them, Li Ziyue coughed gently and greeted the three sects with cupped fists, smiling gently with full politeness. "Greetings, fellow Taoists, I'm a cultivator of ethereal peak, Li Ziyue." The golden cores of the three sects were expressionless after Li Ziyue's greeting. A look of mockery even flashed through the eyes of some of the cultivators, as though they were looking at an idiot, a dead man walking. Ignored. He was completely ignored. Li Ziyue's smile froze on his face. Frowning slightly, Xian Yi clenched his teeth and said with cupped fists, "Earlier on, this fellow Taoist mentioned about the order of things. Indeed, we were the ones who first discovered this medicinal field. However, the three of us only need the rainfrost flower, purple cloud lingji, blood ginseng and chen essence grass to save a senior in our sect. We won't take anything else. We'll be immensely grateful if you guys can grant us our wish." "Are you even in a position to speak?" Chen Xinyu interrupted Xian Yi coldly. "Who are you guys? What rights do you have to talk to me about the order of things?" Shadowless Sects Mo Xiaofeng had a frosty expression and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Word by word, he remarked, "None of you shall lay your hands on a single strand of spirit herb here." Wang Yan's eyes were filled with mockery as he threw his head back in laughter. "Interesting. You still want the spirit herbs even at death's door. Ah, the ignorant are truly fearless." To be fair, it would already be fortuitous for the three of them to escape such a situation unscathed. If not for that fact that he wanted to save the disheveled old man, Xian Yi would not have taken the risk to mention that he wanted the 4 spirit herbs. What should he do? Xian Yi was extremely flustered. Right now, even if the three of them wanted to leave empty-handed, the opposing cultivators did not seem like they would agree to it. Furthermore, although they did not know where Su Zimo was, he was most likely still in the underground palace. What would happen to him if the three of them left? Given his character, he would definitely not bow down against such a situation. However, Xian Yi and the other two could tell that none of the dozens of cultivators present were easy to deal with. The 3 Paragon leaders were even more terrifying. Zimo had just formed his core and nobody knew what golden core phenomenon he had cultivated. How could he be a match for those golden cores? "Guys, no matter who this medicinal field will belong to, there's no need for the 3 of our sects to get into a fight. Let's settle the other stuff first," Chen Xinyu remarked indifferently. "Agreed." Shadowless Sects Mo Xiaofeng looked at Xian Yi and the other two and sneered. Wang Yan nodded in agreement as well. "No problem." Xian Yi and the other two felt their hearts sink. Chen Xinyu's expression indifferent and a dark gold gleam shone from his eyes as he asked icily, "The 3 of you hand over the Connate spirit weapon. There are things that you guys shouldn't take." Connate spirit weapon? Xian Yi and the other two froze momentarily with stunned expressions. "Hee hee." Mo Xiaofeng sneered, "Go on, continue feigning ignorance. Even at the brink of death you guys refuse to be honest." When they heard that, Xian Yi's heart skipped a beat and a look of realization flashed through his eyes. The Connate spirit weapon that Chen Xinyu referred to must have been Su Zimo's coiling dragon seal. Previously, Su Zimo made use of the coiling dragon seal to test the toughness of the bronze square tripod. In the darkness of the night, the radiance illuminated was truly too blinding. When Wang Yan noticed the change in Xian Yi's expression, he could not help but grin. "What? You finally remembered?" Gulping, Li Ziyue forced a smile. "Fellow Taoists, I'm sure there must be some misunderstanding. The 3 of us are truly not in possession of any Connate spirit weapons." Mo Xiaofeng said coldly with a furious killing intent, "That's not decided with your words alone. Hand over your storage bags or die." Xian Yi and the other two looked terrible. The more they endured, the more they were taken advantage of. If they handed over their storage bags, it would be equivalent to handing over half of their lives. Notwithstanding the fact that they did not have any Connate spirit weapons, even if they did, they wouldn't let it up just like that. Gripping his fist to repress the rage in his heart, Xian Yi said with a dark voice, "Fellow Taoist, we're all golden cores. Don't go overboard with your bullying." "Haha. Oh my, he's angry? Hee hee, interesting, interesting. Xian Yi's reaction attracted a series of laughter. The cultivators of the three sects laughed mockingly with relaxed expressions. Noticing that the situation did not seem right, Li Ziyue remarked hurriedly, "Fellow Taoists, the three of us can swear that we're not in possession of any Khanate spirit weapons. If we are, we'll be punished by the heavens. 3 dead men aren't qualified to make terms with us." Mo Xiaofeng sneered again and remarked with a sinisterly cold expression, "Since you refuse to hand them over, I'll take them personally." Swash. Xian Yi and the other two felt their visions blur, and Mo Xiaofeng had already vanished from where he was. So fast. Their hearts skipped a beat. They were not in the best condition, and it was less than 4 hours since they were previously injured. The wound on Lu Hui's abdomen had not even healed completely. Xian Yi stood in front of Lu Hui to defend her and waved his sleeves, summoning 12 supreme-grade flying swords at the same time. He conjured 2 hexagonal sword formations without holding back at all. Gritting his teeth, Li Ziyue circulated his golden core wildly and hollered, "Ethereal sword rain." The both of them used their full strength the moment they attacked. Pitter-patter. Pitter-patter. A downpour rained down from the skies, sharp as swords and blades, emanating an endless edge. When he saw that, Chen Xinyu curled his lips and remarked casually, "Interesting. To think that you've managed to cultivate a golden core phenomenon as well. It's just that, your phenomenon is way too weak." Mo Xiaofeng reappeared by Xian Yi, and the other two sighed with a sinister gaze. If Li Ziyue had released his golden core phenomenon slightly slower, Mo Xiaofeng would have definitely ambushed them silently. The 3 of them might have already been corpses by now. At this moment they were protected by the ethereal sword rain. If Mo Xiaofeng wanted to attack them, he would have to go through the golden core phenomenon. How dare you embarrass yourself with such an inferior golden core phenomenon? Circulating his golden core, Mo Xiaofeng's eyes illuminated 2 dark streaks of light as he hollered, "Golden core phenomenon, shadowless twin darts." 2 dark gold darts appeared behind Mo Xiaofeng, resembling 2 short spears with a sharp aura. How dare the light of a firefly try to compete against the shine of the moon for glory? Break it. Mo Xiaofeng pointed forward. Shoo, shoo. The long darts disappeared and 2 dark streaks of light appeared in midair, shooting forth with a terrifying shockwave that smashed against the screen of rain. Bang, bang. There were 2 resounding bangs. Li Ziyue grunted dully. A series of cracks began to appear on the wavering rain screen. Countless raindrops seemed to have stopped in midair. The 2 streaks of dark light were about to penetrate the rain screen and break through the air. Clang, clang. 2 hexagonal sword formations blocked the dark streaks of lights. Clang, clang. There were 2 crisp sounds. Suddenly, the dark lights began swiveling and released a tremendous cyclical force that struck the hexagonal sword formations. Bang, bang, bang. The 12 supreme-grade flying swords were sent flying. The sword formation fell apart in a split second. Chapter 528, You're the one with a death wish. Chapter 528, You're the one with a death wish. Li Ziyue's golden core phenomenon and Xian Yi's hexagonal sword formations crumbled at almost the same time. The 2 of them shuddered and blood drained from their faces. Shoo, shoo. The 2 dark streaks of light appeared before them in the blink of an eye. Hurriedly, Lu Hui withdrew 2 protection talismans from her storage bag and crushed them, sending forth a bedazzling light barrier that blocked the 2 of them. Snap. The light barrier shattered the moment the dark lights made contact with them. The 3 of them were sent flying by that tremendous force, landing dozens of meters away. The wound on Lu Hui's abdomen split open once more, staining her robes red. Xian Yi and Li Ziyue spat out a mouthful of blood each. Their auras were weak and the spirit energy in their bodies was in chaos as they felt throbbing pains coming from their meridians. Although the shadowless twin darts was not listed on the phenomenon ranking, it possessed a terrifying killing power nevertheless. Mo Xiaofeng leaped into the air and 2 streaks of dark lights circled him continuously. His power of phenomenon churned in a domineering manner. Looking at the 3 of them fallen on the ground, Mo Xiaofeng had a cold expression. What? You guys are still unwilling to take out the Khanate spirit weapon even at the brink of death? Li Ziyue grit his teeth. We don't have any Khanate spirit weapon at all. You're still being stubborn? Mo Xiaofeng scoffed. Since that's the case, you won't have any more chances. The Connate spirit weapon is with me. Come over here if you want to get it. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded from the depths of the palace with a chilling, killing intent. Instinctively, everyone turned towards the voice. A figure gradually came into view. He was scholarly and had black hair, wearing green robes with elegant features. For some unknown reason, that seemingly frail scholar was emitting a shuddering aura of danger. As the scholar strode over, everyone felt as though a bloodthirsty ferocious beast was approaching as the air was filled with the stench of blood. The cultivators present frowned. Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu, the two paragons, were slightly surprised and their gazes shimmered. They hadn't expected that there would be another cultivator in the depths of this underground palace. Furthermore, nobody realized when he appeared, not even them. Before long, the green-robed cultivator had already arrived before them. Here I was wondering how powerful this person is. So he's only an early-stage golden core. Another person who wants to die. The golden cores present heaved a sigh of relief after checking out the intruder's cultivation realm using their spirit-peering arts. No matter how strong he was, an early-stage golden core wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. Zimo, you're back. When he saw Su Zimo appear, Xian Yi sighed internally, knowing that today's matters would definitely not end peacefully. Arriving beside the three of them, Su Zimo squatted down and checked their conditions. His expression only relaxed after seeing that they were in no danger of death. With a grim expression, Lu Hui whispered, "Zimo, these guys are not easy to deal with. How about throwing out the Connate spirit weapon for them to fight among themselves first while we seize the chaos to escape? It's fine if we are bullied, what's important is that we get out alive." "That's right." Li Ziyue added softly, "There's too many of them and there are 3 cultivators with terrifying strength. You won't be a match for them alone, don't be reckless." "Heis." Xian Yi sighed softly. "If things don't look good, get out alone, Zimo. Don't be impulsive." "It's alright, I'll settle this." Su Zimo had a calm expression and gestured for the 3 of them to feel assured. Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu glared at Su Zimo for a little while before relaxing. Although that scholar gave off an extremely dangerous aura, he was in a bad condition and his expression was somewhat pale. In fact, there was a hint of blood in his breath. That person was severely injured and seemed to have just gone through an intense battle. What a false alarm. He's of no threat. Chen Xinyu grinned and those words flashed through his mind. "Lad, hand over the Connate spirit weapon and I can let you die with a whole corpse." Mo Xiaofeng glared down from above in a domineering manner. Rising slowly, Su Zimo did not look at Mo Xiaofeng, merely scanning his surroundings. His gaze swept by Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan as he asked instead, "Who else wants to get their hands on my Connate spirit weapon?" Everyone was stunned. Was that scholar a fool? Wasn't he aware of the situation he was in? Ignored by Su Zimo, Mo Xiaofeng was thoroughly embarrassed as he snarled with killing intent spewing from his eyes, "Lad, I'm talking to you." Su Zimo did not look over at Mo Xiaofeng still, as though he did not know that the latter existed. Isn't anyone going to reply? Raising his brow, Su Zimo smiled and said with deep intent, "I'll be direct then. If you guys leave now you'll get a chance to live. Don't regret if the fight truly breaks out." Haha. The crowd first went silent. Right after, it burst with laughter. Some people clutched their stomachs while others bent over, as though they had heard the greatest joke in the world. Everyone looked at Su Zimo like they were looking at an idiot. Su Zimo smiled as well. In midair, Mo Xiaofeng's expression was menacing as he gripped his fists tightly. The 2 dark gold long darts around him were shuttling so quickly that they were even buzzing. Su Zimo's continued obliviousness towards him was driving him nuts. Courting. Death. The veins on Mo Xiaofeng's neck popped out and blood surged through him as he snarled word by word. Finally. Raising his head slightly, Su Zimo looked at Mo Xiaofeng and replied indifferently, "You're the one with a death wish." "Kill?" No longer able to tolerate, Mo Xiaofeng hollered and the power of his phenomenon burst forth immediately. 2 long darts turned into streaks of light that arrived instantly. Expressionless, Su Zimo was not flustered and swiped his storage bag gently. A gigantic golden seal appeared in his palms with a domineering aura, as though it could suppress all things. When they saw the gigantic golden seal, Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu's gazes turned incomparably fervent. Any single bit of hesitance they had disappeared as well. Everything else aside, that Connate spirit weapon made everything worthwhile. Su Zimo's power of his golden core was circulating wildly inside him. The coiling dragon seal in his palm expanded swiftly with an immense brightness akin to a blazing sun. Flying away from him, it blocked in front of Su Zimo. Clang! Clang! The two streaks of dark light could not dodge in time and struck the coiling dragon seal. However, they were repelled instantly. The coiling dragon seal did not budge at all. Mo Xiaofeng shuddered and a look of fear flashed through his eyes. That collision nearly shattered his golden core phenomenon. You want to see a Khanate spirit weapon? Su Zimo's gaze lit up as he smiled sinisterly. I'll let you see all you want. Boom. Descending from the skies, the coiling dragon seal turned into a gigantic golden mountain with a tremendous force. Roar. The dragon roar reverberated through the world and coiled around the mountain peak, causing it to descend at a faster speed with a fiercer power and more intense aura. Under the shroud of the coiling dragon seal, many golden cores felt their hearts skip a beat and retreated right away. Snap. Slamming against Mo Xiaofeng's shadowless twin darts, the coiling dragon seal shattered the former's golden core phenomenon instantly. Mo Xiaofeng shuddered and spat out a huge mouthful of blood with a battered expression. A dark shadow engulfed Mo Xiaofeng and he could not escape at all. Utterly scared out of his wits, he crushed a protection talisman hurriedly while yelling, "Fellow Taoist, please show mere." Before he could finish, a sludge of blood appeared beneath the golden mountain peak. The paragon of shadowless sect was killed by the coiling dragon seal without a corpse left. Chapter 529, Start of the Massacre. Chapter 529, Start of the Massacre. Silence ensued in the underground palace instantly. Cultivators of Stellar Luna Sect, Shadowless Sect and Blaze Columbus Valley looked at everything with widened eyes in disbelief. Prior to this, no one would have imagined that a single attack from a seemingly frail scholar would kill the paragon of Shadowless Sect instantly. Against the suppression of the Khanate spirit weapon, the shadowless twin darts that destroyed the ethereal sword rain, hexagonal sword formations and protection talismans was akin to a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. Decisive to kill. 3 words flashed across everyone's mind. It was too ruthless. In such circumstances, unless they were paragons of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend super sects, any other golden core wouldn't dare to be reckless. With the death of Mo Xiaofeng, there was now no way of reconciliation for both parties. Although everyone was shocked, their gazes remained cold. To them, Xian Yi and the other two were severely injured and their combat strength could be ignored, whereas Su Zimo was alone. No matter how strong he was, he could not defend against the combined attacks of so many golden cores. Furthermore, Su Zimo was only at early-stage golden core. The remaining 7 cultivators of Shadowless Sect left slowly, delving into the darkness without a trace, as though they had disappeared. Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan glared at the gigantic golden seal with fervent gazes. The fact that an early-stage golden core could produce such terrifying killing power proves that the gigantic seal was extraordinary. If either of them got their hands on it, their combat strength would double at the very least. With the seal, they could definitely dominate everyone when they enter the intermediate ancient battlefield 20 years later and gain fame. All right. Wang Yan roared into laughter. Good moves, fellow Taoist. I'm rather impressed. Hand the Khanate spirit weapon to me first and I can make the decision to let you join Blaze Columbus Valley so that you can follow me from now on. Su Zimo smiled with a flash of mockery in his eyes. Wang Yan was not frustrated despite seeing and shouted with a smile on his face. The wise recognize their circumstances. The situation right now is clear, you're in an irreconcilable situation with Shadowless Sect. At the same time, the cultivators of Stellar Luna Sect want to kill you for your treasure. After a slight pause, Wang Yan declared haughtily, right now, I'm the only one that can save you. Wang Yan was making his intentions clear. As long as Su Zimo were to submit to him and hand over the Khanate spirit weapon, he could ensure Su Zimo's survival and would even fight against Shadowless Sect and Stellar Luna Sect. There were more than 20 golden cores on the side of Stellar Luna Sect and 7 left on Shadowless Sect. Although Blaze Columbus Valley only had more than 10 golden cores, Wang Yan was confident that his golden core phenomenon was superior to Chen Xinyu's. You don't have to worry. Senior brother Wang is a man of his words and will definitely not renege. What are you thinking about? You're still hesitating although senior brother Wang recruited you personally and spared your life? A few Blaze Columbus Valley cultivators behind Wang Yan were displeased when they saw that Su Zimo was keeping his silence. In their opinion, if Su Zimo was tactful, he should hand over his Khanate spirit weapon right away and kowtow. I think, you guys are misunderstanding something. A brief moment later, Su Zimo spoke slowly, right now it's not about who can save me. It's about who can save you guys. When Wang Yan heard that, the smile on his face disappeared gradually and his expression darkened. Fufufu. Chen Xinyu laughed at the right time and shook his head gently, rubbing his palms together. Interesting. Brother Wang, he doesn't need you to save him, nor does he think highly of Blaze Columbus Valley. Everyone from Blaze Columbus Valley was enraged to begin with. Chen Xinyu's words were akin to adding oil to fire. Damn it. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Senior Brother Wang, you don't have to do it personally. I'll retrieve his head for you. Blaze Columbus Valley was riled up. Wang Yan did not disagree, merely nodding his head. The golden core that requested to attack turned towards Su Zimo, muttering, I'll let you die in peace today. I am Tianheng from Blaze Columbus Valley. That way you'll at least know the name of the person who sent you to hell. It's him? He's also a genius of Blaze Columbus Valley and is definitely ranked top 5 among their golden cores in terms of strength. The crowd from Stellar Luna sect broke into hushed discussions. Tianheng did not circulate spirit energy, nor did he summon any spirit weapons, merely walking over barehanded. Su Zimo's expression did not change at all as he glanced at Tianheng and understood. All of a sudden, when he was around 10 feet away from Su Zimo, Tianheng increased his speed. There was a boom. Extending his feet, Tianheng stomped on the ground and his blood chi burst forth. Like a sharp arrow, he arrived before Su Zimo instantly, and his killing intent was so sharp that it almost materialized. Su Zimo did not move at all, as though he could not react in time. Although Tianheng was at late-stage golden core, he did not underestimate his opponent. He knew that Su Zimo was in possession of a Khanate spirit weapon and was tough to deal with, enough to pose a threat to him. That was the reason why he feigned weakness and only struck when he was close enough. Prepare to die. With a menacing expression, Tianheng slung his fists onto Su Zimo's head. Sneering coldly, Su Zimo did not dodge nor avoid and instead, punched in return against the incoming attack. Snap. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. The bones in Tianheng's palms were shattered and his wrists snapped, revealing white bones. Instantly cold sweat rolled down. Tianheng's face was already distorted. As for Su Zimo, he did not stop at all and his punch continued with its momentum after crushing Tianheng's hand. His palm opened up like it wanted to engulf the entire world. A patch of darkness shrouded over Tianheng's head. Su Zimo's palm landed on the top of Tianheng's head and pushed down forcefully. Crack, crack, crack. Tianheng's massive head was pushed right into his chest and the tendons and bones on his neck snapped. He died on the spot, turning into a mist of blood. Tianheng would have never imagined that his foundation and pretense was exposed with a single glance from Su Zimo. More than that, he would not have expected that Su Zimo was almost invincible within 10 feet. To Su Zimo, his actions, calculations and attacks were akin to a joke. In less than a single round of exchange, Blaze Columbus Valley's Tianheng's corpse was laid on the ground. Almost at the same time, a cold glint appeared behind Su Zimo at his blind spot. Immediately after, a vague shadow appeared on the ground. The cultivators of Shadowless sect made their move. It was an extremely precise timing, but the only miscalculation was that Tianheng died too quickly. The cicada senses autumn coming before the wind even starts to blow. With the warning from his spirit perception, Su Zimo slapped in reverse without even turning back. His arms swept through the void, thick as the trunk of a primordial divine elephant. A crisp sound exploded in the air and met the incoming long sword. Clang. An ear-piercing sound rang and the sword quivered violently. Right in front of countless gazes, the superior-grade sword that carried the power of a golden core was shattered into shards by Su Zimo's seemingly limp arm, scattering on the ground. Poof. Pointing forward, Su Zimo tapped the glabella of the Shadowless sect cultivator. A bloodied hole formed. Grisly fresh blood began to flow. Su Zimo's body was way too strong. He could snap a spirit weapon with his palm and that finger penetrated the bones of that cultivator with ease. In the blink of an eye, 2 more golden cores were dead. As for the massacre, it had only just begun. Chapter 530 Battle against the Cultivators. Chapter 530 Battle against the Cultivators. How dare you? Wang Yan hollered, wanting to stop things, but it was too late. Tianheng died too quickly without even lasting a single round. When he witnessed Tianheng's death, Wang Yan was enraged. His eyes seemed like they were burning with fire. Kill him. Chen Xinyu waved his hand indifferently. Many golden cores behind the two paragons swarmed forward with furious killing intents, attacking in succession. The cultivators that accompanied Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu to the Great Chen ruins were not weaklings in their sects, and there were extremely few early-stage golden cores. Most of them were at mid or late stage. Instantly, sword chi streaked through the air and resplendent light filled the skies. Many flying swords and spirit weapons howled like the wind. Countless spirit arts released terrifying energy shockwaves, causing the spirit chi in the void to fluctuate in chaos. The attacks were everywhere. Su Zimo was situated in the center of the battlefield all alone, similar to a sampan in a raging ocean that could sink at any moment. However, his expression was still calm and composed, as though he could not sense that he was in danger. His black hair swayed gently and two beams of divine lights shone from his eyes as he took a deep breath before opening his mouth. Kill? His voice was like thunder, shaking the 9 heavens. After cultivating his inner core, Su Zimo's skin, flesh, tendons, bones, marrow and organs underwent yet another transformation. The power of his thunderclap kill rose as well. That single howl was akin to an ancient demon's howl. Arriving suddenly, the underground palace trembled as dust fell endlessly. The shadowless sect cultivators that were initially hiding in the darkness with the help of blind spots and the environment shuddered, revealing themselves. The cultivator closest to Su Zimo had a pained expression and his features were contorted. Bending over, he clutched both ears and blood seeped through the gaps in his fingers. Su Zimo's howl ruptured that person's eardrums right away. All the flying swords, spirit weapons and even spirit arts that were directed towards Su Zimo paused for a split second. That single second might not have amounted to much for anyone else. However, in this battlefield, it was the difference between life and death for some cultivators. In a flash, Su Zimo lunged towards the shadowless sect cultivator closest to him. Seizing the opportunity while that person was stunned by thunderclap kill and had yet to react, he leaped up and tapped the front of his feet on that person's head gently. Snap. That person's head split into pieces and he died on the spot. Using that person's head as a support, Su Zimo changed directions rapidly and arrived before another shadowless sect cultivator. That cultivator was shocked and could not react in time at all. He had just raised his arms when Su Zimo's punch had already landed on his chest. Poof! That person's chest caved in and protruded out from his back. His body was penetrated by a single punch from Su Zimo and he fell forward stiffly. Blood gushed out from the gaping hole and his gaze dimmed. It was clear that he could not survive. Rise! At the same time, Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he waved his sleeves. Not far away, the coiling dragon seal rose from the ground and illuminated with a blinding golden light. With a resounding bang, it looked like a gigantic mountain with a gigantic dragon coiling around it hovering in midair. Swoosh! Su Zimo controlled the coiling dragon seal and directed it to smash towards some stellar Luna sect cultivators on the opposite end. Poof! 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 The 3 golden cores would not withstand the smash of the coiling dragon seal at all and were crushed. The superior-grade spirit weapons in their hands broke into shards as well. Many cultivators were shocked. Although that frail scholar was only at early-stage golden core, his physique was terrifyingly strong as was his melee combat skills. Decisive with clean actions, every single move from him was lethal without any hesitance. It would almost be impossible for one to escape death the moment he closed in. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 golden cores died in the hands of Su Zimo. Humph! Chen Xinyu's expression turned terrible when he saw the consecutive deaths of his sect mates. In his opinion, it was extremely easy to deal with an early-stage golden core like Su Zimo, even if the latter had a connate spirit weapon in his possession. After all, even if Su Zimo had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to defend against more than 10 golden cores attacking him at the same time. However, as time passed by, be it Chen Xinyu or Wang Yan, both of them felt things getting troublesome. This Su Zimo was much more frightening than they had imagined. He was extremely strong in melee combat and had unusual movement techniques. Shuttling through the crowd with a pair of spirit wings, no one could injure him at all. A while later, it was the three sects that was suffering immense losses with golden cores falling one after another instead. If this continued, all their fellow sect mates would be massacred by Su Zimo before the two of them had their chance to attack. In reality, the reason why both Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan did not strike immediately was because they were wary of one another. Both of them expected an immense battle to break out between Stellar Luna Sect and Blaze Columbus Valley after Su Zimo's death. They were not only fighting for the medicinal field here, but the Connate spirit weapon as well. Both of them were guarding against the other. But now, the way the situation unfolded had gone beyond their expectations. Narrowing his gaze, Chen Xinyu suddenly said, "Brother Wang, there's no need for us to continue wearing each other down as such." "Oh? What do you mean?" Wang Yan asked instead. "Let's join hands and kill this person first. As for the Connate spirit weapon and medicinal field, we'll make a decision for it later." Chen Xinyu replied with a deep voice. "All right." The moment he replied, the two of them attacked together with a tacit understanding. Meteor fall. Chen Xinyu shifted his fingers and pointed forward, shouting softly while channeling his spirit perception. Spirit chi gathered towards Chen Xinyu's fingertip continuously. Boom. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic meteor hovered before Chen Xinyu and crashed down towards Su Zimo's head. The meteor descended at a terrifying speed and was even blazing with flames on its surface, letting out a frightening might that threatened to pierce the vast lands. Su Zimo was expressionless and slapped his storage bag. Instantly, 18 supreme-grade flying swords appeared before him. With his control, 18 flying swords streaked horizontally, leaving streams of sword chi and a piercing frost. Clang! Clang! The 18 flying swords buzzed and quivered, swiftly forming a sword formation that resembled a blazing sun. It spun continuously and surged towards the incoming meteor. Boom! The meteor collided against the sword formation with a loud bang. The collision of the two opposing powers caused a massive energy light wave to spread out in all directions. The aftershock of that power was extremely terrifying, surging towards the medicinal field in the distance. The 10,000-year vermilion fruit that was in the center swayed, letting out an invisible energy that caused the aftershock to dissipate. Clang! 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 The sword formation engulfed the meteor and slashed it repeatedly, leaving countless scars behind. After a brief pause, the meteor exploded. No longer able to sustain, the candlelight sword formation fell apart as well. Chen Xinyu's expression was grim when he saw that. That spirit art could be considered as Stellar Luna Sect's killing move. Its true power did not lie in the moment the meteor landed, but the terrifying power that was released during its final explosion. Any cultivator that did not notice that would definitely be severely injured by the explosion of the meteor. Unfortunately, that spirit art was blocked by the candlelight sword formation and the meteor fragments could not get close at all, let alone injure Su Zimo. Chapter 531, Two Great Phenomenons. Chapter 531, Two Great Phenomenons. Wang Yan's fingertips danced the moment Chen Xinyu attacked, conjuring a spirit art that heated up the surroundings instantly. Flame Spear. He shouted and a long spear condensed in the void before him, blazing with raring flames. The spear was red from the heat and burned with a crystalline luster. Go! Surging forward, the flaming spear emitted a heat wave that caused the air to sizzle. Su Zimo channeled his bloodline while controlling his candlelight sword formation to defend against Chen Xinyu's meteor fall. The power of thunder that was hidden in Su Zimo's bloodline sizzled in his palms, forming an electric spear that was blinding. Boom! The two different powers of thunder and fire collided and let out a resounding bang. Although Su Zimo was 2 cultivation realms below Wang Yan, he achieved the legendary Extreme Foundation Establishment realm. Even at early-stage Golden Core, he was not inferior to late-stage Golden Cores in terms of strength. Furthermore, that Thunder Spear was created from the Void Thunder Manual. The Void Thunder Manual was a mental secret skill that was compiled from the Thunder Emperor's lifelong learning. Although there was only a single remnant page, the power it contained was unimaginable. The flaming and Thunder Spear clashed. Lightning flashed everywhere and sparks flew. In that collision, Wang Yan did not gain any advantages and was instead being pushed back. While defending against the attacks of the two Paragons, Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu, Su Zimo channeled his coiling dragon seal and smashed it towards the crowd. Tragic shrieks sounded as a blood mist spread through the palace. When he was at Extreme Foundation Establishment realm, Su Zimo could already kill early and mid-stage golden cores with his coiling dragon seal. Now that he had formed his core and was able to release the full power of the coiling dragon seal, coupled with the terrifying power of the golden core realm itself, no ordinary golden core could withstand the might of the coiling dragon seal. Even if there were any golden cores that could conjure golden core phenomenons, they could only survive by a bare margin. Against the repeated collision and suppression of the coiling dragon seal, the golden core phenomenons of the golden cores could not hold out at all and broke apart. Not only did Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu fail to control Su Zimo after attacking, cultivators of the three sects were falling apart instead. Brother Wang, let's not hold back any more at a moment like this. Chen Xinyu's gaze was grim as he said with grit teeth. Wang Yan's expression was solemn and his gaze flashed fiercely. In reality, although the both of them attacked, they had yet to use their full strength and were still wary against the other. 4 golden cores golden core phenomenons were their greatest killing moves. However, they could not release their golden core phenomenons repeatedly within a short period of time. Between Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu, if either of them were to release their golden core phenomenons first, the power of their phenomenons would weaken after Su Zimo was dead, and that was equivalent to them losing an ace up their sleeves. At that time, they would definitely be disadvantaged in the fight for the Connate spirit weapon and medicinal field. Therefore, although the two of them joined the fray on the surface, they were still mindful of one another and hiding tricks up their sleeves. But now that the cultivators of their sects were dead and gravely injured, they would most likely be the only two remaining if this continued. Both of them could not hold out for much longer. All right. Wang Yan's eyes flashed with a look of resolve as he said deeply, "Let's join hands and release our golden core phenomenons to kill this lad first." Completely agreed. Chen Xinyu nodded. The two of them exchanged glances and circulated the power of their golden cores tacitly, releasing their golden core phenomenons. It was rare for two paragons of different sects to have such a chemistry at this moment. Although neither of them said it, both of them knew in their hearts that they were already feeling pressure against the frightening combat strength displayed by Su Zimo. Golden core phenomenon, solar luna stellar lumen. Chen Xinyu's eyes flashed like the dazzling stars of the night. A sky seemed to appear above him with a gigantic moon and stars dotted everywhere, spilling endless starlight. Although it looked mysterious, it possessed a shocking killing intent and let out a shuddering energy shockwave. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. The solar luna stellar lumen was ranked 92 on the previous phenomenon ranking. It was created by harmonizing with the moon and countless stars while forming a core. By comprehending the sun, moon and communicating with the stellar powers, the phenomenon was formed. While it was not created by an ancient mighty figure, its might was still extraordinary. Up till this point of his cultivation, this was the first time that Su Zimo was witnessing a truly strong golden core phenomenon. Although it was ranked near the end of the phenomenon ranking, the might of the solar luna stellar lumen was already enough for him to feel threatened. Golden core raging city blaze. An ancient city appeared behind Wang Yan, majestic and grand, shocking as though it had arrived after reversing through time. Immediately after, raging flames blazed through the ancient city. The city walls were burned red and countless living beings struggled, wailed and cried in the flames. The entire city had transformed into a burning hell. Raging City Blaze was ranked 89 on the previous phenomenon ranking and was created by an ancient mighty figure. In his youth, the man encountered a catastrophe where a city was caught in a major battle between cultivators and burned with true fire, causing millions of living beings to be turned into ashes. That ancient mighty figure managed to scrape through death, and as fate would have it, he was saved by a cultivator who was passing by the ruins. The flames engulfed him and left him in wrenching pain worse than death. Later on, that man cultivated with great determination, and when he finally formed his core, he recalled that scene from his younger days. Instantly, a raging flame surged through his heart and a phenomenon was formed alongside his successful core formation. Even Chen Xinyu's solar luna stellar lumen dimmed in comparison when Raging City Blaze arrived. Raging City Blaze did not only contain the might of the flames, but also an eternal vengeance and hatred from this ancient mighty figure of the past. When he saw the two golden core phenomenons, Li Ziyue's expression turned pale. Golden core phenomenons varied in strength. Within the territory of Great Zhou, his ethereal sword rain was also considered as a famous golden core phenomenon. However, it was completely worthless against those two golden core phenomenons. Even if he could release it right now, it would most likely break apart instantly. The arrival of the two golden core phenomenons caused the entire underground palace to quake. Standing in midair, Qian Xinyu strode between the solar stellar lumen towards Su Zimo with a cold expression, saying slowly, "It's time to end things." Scoffing coldly, Su Zimo waved his sleeves and swept up the coiling dragon seal, smashing it fiercely towards Qian Xinyu. Bang, bang, bang. The coiling dragon seal was struck by endless starlight in midair, unable to close in. Wang Yin strode forward. The ancient city behind him that raged with flames smashed towards the gigantic seal with a swiveling divine dragon in midair. Boom. The golden core phenomenon of the raging city blaze merely shuddered for a brief moment against the incoming coiling dragon seal, and its strength did not diminish at all. Su Zimo summoned the coiling dragon seal back expressionlessly. When he saw that, Wang Yin reared his head in laughter. "Lad, although a Khanate spirit weapon is good, it's still an external object at the end of the day. Golden core phenomenons are the true core methods for golden cores. Prepare to die." The remaining more than 10 cultivators soared into the air one after another, summoning their spirit weapons and arts before charging in once more. Chapter 532, Domineering Suppression. Chapter 532, Domineering Suppression. The arrival of the two great golden core phenomenons, Solar Stellar Lumen and Raging City Blaze, coupled with the full-strength attack of more than 10 golden cores, released a shuddering energy shockwave. Xian Yi's expression changed starkly as he shouted, "Zimo, run! Don't care about us." "That's right. Hurry and leave or it'll be too late." Li Ziyue yelled as well. In Xian Yi's opinion, Su Zimo had just formed his core. Even if he managed to cultivate a golden core phenomenon, he would definitely not be able to defend against the charge of two great phenomenons. However, Xian Yi believed that with Su Zimo's strength, there was a high chance that he could get out alive if he used his full strength to escape. Golden core phenomenon. Su Zimo smiled coldly with a proud demeanor. When he was fighting with the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile beneath the underground palace earlier on, he released the primordial soaring serpent phenomenon and was unable to release it again yet. However, he had another golden core phenomenon. Su Zimo was unmoved against the suppression of two great phenomenons, and his green robes swayed while his eyes lit up with a bedazzling glint. Boom. The skies that were initially filled with a gigantic moon and countless stars transformed in the blink of an eye, filled with dark clouds and the rumbling of thunder. Qian Xinyu's expression changed. Wang Yin frowned as well with a grim expression, murmuring in confusion, "A golden core phenomenon." Before it was fully released, that golden core phenomenon had already affected Qian Xinyu's solar stellar lumen. What sort of a golden core phenomenon would possess such terrifying might? Bang! Boom! Boom! Suddenly the skies collapsed and destructive torrents surged down. Countless meteors descended and the ground quaked while living beings cried endlessly. It was the scene of an apocalypse. Instantly the starlight dimmed. Qian Xinyu's solar stellar lumen was showing signs of dispersing. With a pale expression, Qian Xinyu circulated his golden core's power furiously to sustain the golden core phenomenon and control the situation. The torrents that were spilling from the skies spewed towards the ancient city raging with flames. Shing! A piercing sound rang and smoke billowed. More than half of the raging flames were extinguished. Fire and water intertwined and the ancient city was about to be destroyed, drowned by the torrents. "That's impossible." Wang Yan's eyes widened with a raging flare as he growled deeply, "What sort of a golden core phenomenon is that? I've never even heard of it before. There's no way it can take down my raging city blaze." In reality, the reason why he could not identify the origin of Su Zimo's golden core phenomenon was because the true form and might of the phenomenon had yet to present itself. Although it was only the tip of the iceberg, the two golden core phenomenons listed on the phenomenon ranking, Solar Stellar Lumen and Raging City Blaze, were already unable to hold out. Countless spirit weapons turned into streaks of light that tore through the air with a chilling killing intent. Before they could get close to Su Zimo, the speed of the spirit weapons slowed down and they showed themselves, trembling endlessly while buzzing. The spirit weapons were suppressed by the power of the mighty phenomenon and could not close in. Bang! 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 Meteors fell in swift succession. The spirit weapons were crushed into dust. Surging torrents drowned figures one after another. No one could escape the terrifying strength of the apocalypse no matter how they struggled. It was a shocking scene. Shen Yi and the other two were rooted to the ground, dumbfounded. They expected that Su Zimo would probably cultivate a mighty golden core phenomenon, but none of them thought that it would be this terrifying. At that moment, nobody realized that the true terror was still awaiting. On the battlefield. Almost at the same time, Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu swiped their storage bags and grabbed a bunch of elixirs, stuffing it into their mouths. Both of them were experienced and could tell that Su Zimo was in a bad condition with weak blood qi and depleting spirit energy. As long as they persevered, they would definitely be able to kill Su Zimo. Humph. Sneering coldly, Su Zimo's golden core moved slowly. Between the world, an incomparably huge ancient demon came into view, emanating a terrifying aura. Its limbs were akin to heavenly piercing pillars, and it stood amidst the raging currents, suppressing the raging tides. Its resolute shell held up the shattered heavens and defended the 8 desolates against the raining meteors. That is. Blood drained from the faces of Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu as fear filled their eyes. Could that be? It's a primordial divine turtle. Both of them gasped and exclaimed. That golden core phenomenon was not listed on the previous phenomenon ranking. However, that did not mean that the primordial divine turtle was not powerful enough. The phenomenon ranking had clear records that when it was established, the golden core phenomenons of the divine turtle and soaring serpent were listed among the top 10 of the ranking. But they were lost by now. To think that an ancient and mighty golden core phenomenon as such would be reborn once more. Furthermore, it was already demonstrating an incomparable might the moment it was released. The green-robed scholar stood on the divine turtle's shell with his hands behind his back. Despite the raging currents beneath and raining meteors above, his expression remained calm as ever, as though he was a divine being that was looking down on all life. His black hair danced and his robes fluttered. A bright glint shone from his pupils, and his aura was so formidable that it could suppress everything in the world. How could someone as such be defeated? Merely by standing quietly, Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu already felt a sense of defeat against that man. There was no way they could surpass his unstoppable aura. The divine turtle roared into the heavens, and its eyes shone with a domineering divine light. Crack, crack, crack. Both Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu's golden core phenomenons dispersed at almost the same time. Their figures fell and they spat out a mouthful of blood each. There were some golden cores from the 3 sects that managed to avoid the raging currents and raining meteors. However, at that moment, it seemed as though they were restrained by some mysterious power. With a bang, all of them turned into blood mists, dying with no corpse remaining. Up till this point of the battle, the remaining more than 10 golden cores of the 3 sects fell as well, leaving only Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu. Turning around, Wang Yan crushed a protection talisman that turned into a layer of light barrier. Snap. Snap. Against the impact of the divine turtle phenomenon, the light barrier broke apart and sounds of cracking echoed. Using that momentary respite, Wang Yan conjured a hand seal and bit his tongue gently, spraying a stream of essence blood into the air. Instantly, Wang Yan's aura turned extremely weak after that mouthful of essence blood was spat out. Swoosh. His essence blood blazed with flames. With a leap, Wang Yan jumped into the flames and he turned into a scarlet streak of light that shot towards the exit of the underground palace at an astonishing speed. That was Blaze Columbus Valley's flame escape technique. It consumed a mouthful of the cultivators' essence blood and hurt their cores. This was something that they would never use unless they had no other choice. And right now Wang Yan could not care about anything anymore. On the other end, Chen Xinyu withdrew a protection talisman and crushed it as well. Immediately after, he withdrew an elixir that was the size of a longan from his storage bag and clenched his teeth, biting into it. The elixir melted instantly and Chen Xinyu's initially dried-up spirit energy surged once more. His injuries were temporarily suppressed and he was invigorated. That elixir was extremely precious and was considered as one of the rarest grade 3 elixirs, Berserk elixir. After consumption, cultivators are extremely invigorated and can temporarily ignore their injuries while receiving a massive boost in their combat strength. After consuming the Berserk elixir, the first thing on Chen Xinyu's mind was not to continue fighting against Su Zimo, but to turn around and escape. He did not care for the Khanate spirit weapon or medicinal field anymore. What's most important was for him to survive. Chapter 533 Absolute. Chapter 533, Absolute. In the Tianhuang North region, the strength of Stellar Luna sect in Blaze Columbus Valley was above Ethereal Peak. As the paragons of those two sects, Wang Yan and Chen Xinyu had survival methods and were difficult to kill in the first place. Furthermore, Su Zimo was severely injured by the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile in the underground cave and was now battling with heavy injuries. Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan escaped frantically, and Su Zimo's golden core phenomenon was already unable to hold out, fading gradually while his golden core throbbed in pain. That was a sign that his spirit energy was being pushed to its limits. Su Zimo was filled with killing intent and a fierce gaze. He must not let the two of them escape. If they got out, the location of the medicinal field would definitely be leaked out. The 10,000-year vermilion fruit would only ripen in another month, and that would add too many variables as to who would get their hands on it eventually. The killing intent in Su Zimo's heart rose. Devouring a spirit regeneration elixir, he leaped into the air and pursued Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan, who were scurrying to escape. Although he was severely injured and his spirit energy was depleted, with the burst of his bloodline and the help of his ethereal wings, Su Zimo's speed was still frighteningly fast. Chen Xinyu and Wang Yan did not leave Su Zimo's line of sight the entire time. Using flame escape, Wang Yan was the first to rush out of the underground palace. He was followed by Chen Xinyu, and Su Zimo was right behind. By now, Su Zimo was already close to catching up to Chen Xinyu. Sensing an evil gust of wind behind him, Chen Xinyu turned back and was scared out of his wits. The both of them were less than 10 feet apart. With a pale expression, Chen Xinyu commented with a dark gaze, "Fellow Taoist, I've already given up on trying to fight for the medicinal field. There's no need for you to hunt me down ruthlessly, right? How about letting me live?" "Hunt you down ruthlessly?" Su Zimo sneered and asked instead, "Have you considered letting me live earlier on?" "You?" Chen Xinyu was speechless. Snarling, Su Zimo continued, "It's too late to beg for mercy now." Chen Xinyu was injured by the divine turtle phenomenon after all, and his condition was getting worse as he sprinted. A trickle of blood was dripping from the corners of his mouth. "Don't force me." Chen Xinyu's eyes flashed with lunacy as he shouted while panting, "It won't be good for you either if we really fall out. How dare you threaten me still?" Su Zimo's killing intent was sharp as he remarked frostily, "I'll kill you first." In his life, Su Zimo hated to be threatened. Chen Xinyu's words sealed the nail on his coffin. When he sensed Su Zimo's killing intent, Chen Xinyu knew that he was doomed and yelled from the depths of his throat, "There's a 10,000-year-old medicinal field here and a 10,000-year vermilion fruit that's about to ripen." Chen Xinyu used almost all of his strength with that shout. All the cultivators in the vicinity of the Great Chen ruins moved with his voice. In reality, even without Chen Xinyu's shout, there were already some cultivators that noticed the activity in the depths of the palace and were rushing over. Some of their movements were already heard by Su Zimo. There were also cultivators appearing in his line of sight. He could not let things drag on anymore. With a cold gaze, Su Zimo slapped his storage bag and withdrew a moon-white gigantic bow. Pausing in his tracks, he loaded the bow and aimed at Chen Xinyu's back. Whoosh! 5 spirit patterns shone on the moon-white gigantic bow brightly. If anyone focused their attention, they would vaguely see that there was a 6th spirit pattern on the bow. However, that 6th spirit pattern had not formed and materialized completely. It was the quasi-connate spirit weapon Moon Concealment Bow. Channeling his bloodline, Su Zimo drew the bow with a shocking divine power as though he was hugging a full moon. Shoo! A sharp arrow tore through the air at an extremely fast speed, arriving instantly like a flash of lightning. Chen Xinyu felt the killing intent behind him as well. Without even turning back, he crushed a protection talisman right away and dodged to the side with all his might. A flash of blood appeared. Even so, Chen Xinyu was still a step slower and his right chest was penetrated by Su Zimo's arrow, causing blood to spurt out. There was no way of withstanding the might of the Moon Concealment Bow unless he was using a top-tier protection talisman. That arrow did not pierce Chen Xinyu's heart. However, his lung was pierced and the tremendous force ripped his lung apart, almost rupturing his other organs as well. Chen Xinyu let out a weird sound as though his throat was a windpipe that was leaking air. "Even if you kill me, you won't be able to survive." Fresh blood was being coughed out of Chen Xinyu's mouth as his eyes turned bloodshot. Although he could struggle to stand in midair, he could not survive for much longer. Shoo! there was a loud sound of arrows piercing through the air. A series of dark lights shot into Qian Sinyu's body. The chase had already led the two of them away from the forbidden grounds of the palace, and they were now outside. Not far away, a pair of archers patrolling the palace fired more than 10 malevolent arrows, almost riddling Qian Sinyu's entire body with holes. Bang! Qian Sinyu's body exploded and he turned into a blood mist that spread out in midair. The golden core paragon of Stellar Luna Sect was buried in the Great Qian ruins. Wang Yan had already fled far away using flame escape and was almost out of Su Zimo's line of sight. There were ways for Su Zimo to kill Wang Yan as well. If he were to release blood escape, he would definitely be able to catch up to Wang Yan. Otherwise, if Su Zimo were to circulate his inner core and burst forth with his blood chi, he could receive a boost in speed and hunt down Wang Yan with his demon form. In that case, Wang Yan would almost definitely be dead as well. But now, there were already more and more cultivators rushing over to where he was. Those two methods were both inappropriate. Furthermore, if Su Zimo were to continue chasing, it would mean leaving Xian Yi and the other two alone in the underground palace. Given their severe injuries, they could meet with danger at any moment. More than 10 archers in the palace turned their sights towards Su Zimo and started drawing their bows in unison, prepared to attack once more. After a moment of contemplation, Su Zimo decided to retreat to the forbidden grounds of the palace and turned around, speeding in the direction of the underground palace. Before he arrived at the entrance, he already caught sight of multiple cultivators swarming towards the underground palace. The remark that Qian Sinyu shouted prior to his death had still attracted quite a bit of trouble. "All of you get lost." Before he arrived, Su Zimo sprinted over and shouted like a god of war, his black hair swaying while his gaze burned. Xian Yi and the other two were severely injured in the underground palace. Su Zimo would definitely not allow the three of them to be met with danger. The treasures of the world belong to the strong. Who are you to stop us? Someone swept his gaze at Su Zimo and sneered after seeing that the latter was only at early-stage Golden Core realm. Without saying anything more, Su Zimo raised the moon concealment bow in his hands and fired an arrow. Shoo! Poof! A dark light streaked by and that person's throat was pierced, dying on the spot without making a sound. Perfect spirit weapon? No, there seems to be a 6 spirit pattern that's almost forming. That's a quasi-connate spirit weapon. Insolent. When someone saw the moon concealment bow in Su Zimo's hands, greed filled his eyes as he hollered, "Unknown demon, how dare you act so insolently here?" Su Zimo scoffed coldly and loaded an arrow. Shoo! Poof! A flash of blood appeared. Yet another golden core fell from midair. 2 consecutive arrows murdered 2 golden cores one after another. Su Zimo's torrential ferocity was absolute and stunned almost all the cultivators present instantly. Chapter 534 Green-Robed Fiendcelestial. Chapter 534 Green-Robed Fiendcelestial. Who is this man? How is he so domineering? I don't know, but I think I saw him shoot the paragon of Stellar Luna Sect, Qian Sinyu, to death earlier on. What? Many cultivators were shocked. Qian Sinyu had cultivated Solar Luna Stellar Lumen, the 92nd rank of the previous phenomenon ranking, and was a famous paragon of the Tianhuang North region. To think that he would be slain in the Great Qian ruins. He's only at early-stage Golden Core realm with a bow. Even if the bow is a quasi-connate spirit weapon, can he defend against so many of us? Someone hollered with a cold expression. The meaning of that Golden Core was clear. He wanted to turn Su Zimo into everyone's target. Ha! Smirking, Su Zimo turned towards that person and said coldly, "Of course I can't defend against everyone with a single bow. But, it's more than enough to kill you." Raising his moon concealment bow, Su Zimo drew the bowstring. Splash! His bloodline surged with a torrential might, akin to raging tsunamis. Many cultivators were shocked. Tsunami blood. Some cultivators exclaimed. Squeak, squeak. The bowstring quivered and was gradually drawn, letting out a squeaking sound. The moon concealment bow was not heavy by itself, but one would not be able to draw its bowstring unless they possessed shocking divine might. That was also the reason why the killing power of the moon concealment bow was so terrifying. A single arrow that was shot out did not only possess the might of the quasi-connate moon concealment bow itself, but also the burst of the bloodline that was used to draw the bowstring. An arrow tore through the air with a tremendous might at lightning speed. The moon shone brightly up in the night skies. As though it was sucked in by some mysterious power, moonlight streamed into Su Zimo's embrace continuously, letting out a shuddering energy shockwave. Su Zimo looked like he was hugging a full moon. The cultivator that spoke and was now targeted by the moon concealment bow felt his hairs stand on end and gasped. In fact, he saw a hallucination from the depths of his heart. There was no way for him to avoid that arrow at all. Instantly, cold sweat poured down from his forehead. The sweat trickled into that man's eyes, but he did not dare to blink at all. He was afraid that he would never open his eyes again after blinking. His line of sight was turning blurry after being covered by sweat. Su Zimo's figure seemed like it had already vanished, leaving only a full moon in midair with a chilling, killing intent. Buzz. Su Zimo released his fingertip and the bowstring quivered violently. A divine light burst forth and delved into the voids. The pupils of that golden core constricted fiercely. Just as he withdrew a defensive spirit weapon from his storage bag, his chest was pierced by an arrow with blood gushing out. That person fell from midair and died on the spot. Fast. It was too fast. Although he was mentally prepared, he could not dodge it at all. This man is so ruthless and evil in his ways. He's definitely someone of the fiend sections. Cultivators, let's work together and kill an evildoer like him. Another cultivator yelled. There was no distinction of right or wrong and immortals or fiends in the Great Shen ruins. The reason why the cultivators harbored killing intents towards Su Zimo was because of the medicinal field, the 10,000-year vermilion fruit and the moon concealment bow in his hands. You just want to kill me for my treasures? Why do you have to look for some self-righteous excuse? Su Zimo was clear about the situation and did not waste time exchanging nonsense with the cultivators. With a sneer, he drew his bowstring once more. Another divine light flashed. Bang! The golden core that yelled exploded in midair, turning into a mist of blood after being penetrated by that arrow. He did not have time to react and was dead without a corpse. Shoo! The fifth arrow. A golden core that was charging over held an intricate mountain peak in his palm and he summoned it instantly. Go! The mountain peak expanded rapidly and shone with a bright light, blocking in front of that person with a majestic aura. Boom! A deafening noise echoed. That mountain peak was pierced by the moon concealment bow's arrow and exploded on the spot. The golden core that was hiding behind it was struck by countless debris and his tendons and bones were broken. Coughing huge mouthfuls of blood, his gaze dimmed and he fell from midair. That superior-grade defensive spirit weapon was destroyed by a single arrow from the moon concealment bow. Shoo! The sixth arrow. It tore through the air and emitted an endless killing intent. Golden core phenomenon, Sand Pagoda. A golden core hollered with a sharp gaze. The power of phenomenon surged and an endless sandstorm raged before that person, transforming into a towering pagoda in the blink of an eye. Poof! The arrow was extremely sharp and pierced the sand pagoda with an unparalleled power. A bowl-sized hole appeared on the pagoda with cracks spreading out like a turtle's shell. Even so, the arrow used up all its power and fell weakly, buried in the sandstorm. The golden core was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Finally, he took a deep breath of relief and could not help but rear his head in laughter. As long as his towering sand pagoda could defend against Su Zimo's moon concealment bow, it meant that Su Zimo would not be able to break his golden core phenomenon. After all, the sand pagoda possessed regeneration capabilities. As long as his spirit energy was not depleted, the endless sandstorm would surge in and repair the damage on the sand pagoda, closing that massive arrow hole on its body. Buzz. There was another sound of a gentle bowstring flick. That person's laugh came to an end. The seventh arrow was shot. It pierced through the bowl-sized arrow hole that had yet to close fully, turning into a dark streak of light and entering that person's mouth. The person's head was penetrated and he fell stiffly, causing the entire sand pagoda to collapse. 7 consecutive arrows. 6 golden cores died one after another as blood stained the skies. Among them, there was even a cultivator with a golden core phenomenon that was killed with 2 arrows. A group of cultivators that were initially charging over were stunned. Although they were swarming forward together and could kill that scholarly green-robed cultivator, who could defend against his arrows in that period of time, none of them wanted to be the next dead person against the moon concealment bow. Poof! The 8th arrow flew. A stream of blood spurted and the golden core right at the front was dead. The massacre was continuing. Su Zimo did not hesitate at all and was decisive to kill. With a resolute gaze and a cold expression, he repeated the same actions continuously. Arching the bow, loading an arrow and aiming to kill. In reality he was in an extremely bad condition. He did not have time to rest at all after being severely injured by the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile in the underground cave and fought the cultivators of the three sects immediately after. After that intense battle, Su Zimo's spirit energy was already dried up. Even if his spirit energy was full right now, he had just released the divine turtle and soaring serpent phenomenons earlier on and could not release another golden core phenomenon in a short interval. Therefore, Su Zimo had to maintain an aggressive stance to suppress and kill everything so that he could shock everyone. The shimmer of the moon concealment bow shone repeatedly and the bow quivered, letting off a haunting sound. With every single sound, there was bound to be a dead golden core. Su Zimo stood in midair with his black hair dancing and a sharp gaze. Emitting a cold killing intent, he was like a murderous Fiendcelestial that gave off a shuddering aura. In the blink of an eye, there were already more than 20 corpses on the ground. Gradually, cultivators at the back started dispersing. An atmosphere of fear infected the crowd rapidly. More and more cultivators at the back retreated. Nobody was willing to rush in front and be murdered by that merciless green-robed Fiendcelestial. Chapter 535, Departure. Chapter 535, Departure. Many cultivators retreated one after another at the back and had already created a distance with Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. Everyone watched from afar, not daring to advance. Even so, none of them left. The entrance of the underground palace that was buried for 10,000 years was exposed and everyone wanted to explore it. Sneering internally, Su Zimo put away the moon concealment bow and entered the underground palace once more in a flash. Sprinting the entire time, he arrived at the medicinal field before long. "Zimo, are you all right?" Xian Yi and the other two hurried over when they saw Su Zimo return. All of them were severely injured and did not have the chance to do anything for the previous battle. Now that they had rested for a while and consumed a few elixirs, Xian Yi and the others recovered some stamina and their injuries were stable for the moment too. Seeing that they were in acceptable conditions, Su Zimo said darkly, "We can't stay here for too long. Let's take away the spirit herbs in this medicinal field and leave the Great Qian ruins as soon as possible." Wang Yin had already escaped. There were many more cultivators surrounding outside and even more were gathering towards them. This underground palace could not remain hidden. There was another month to go before the 10,000-year vermilion fruit ripened. A storm was bound to break out in the north region within this month and many more golden cores would be attracted towards the Great Qian ruins, making the situation even more complicated. Any single misstep could cause them to die here. Even Su Zimo could not dare to guarantee that he could escape unscathed, let alone Xian Yi and the other two. Xian Yi and the other two agreed. The four of them split up and took away the spirit herbs in the medicinal field, keeping as much as possible in their storage bags. During this period of time, Su Zimo consumed a stalk of blood ginseng and a scarlet flame fruit directly, leaving Xian Yi and the other two dumbfounded. There were many spirit herbs that could not be consumed directly. That was because their medicinal powers and energies were too intense and often required other spirit herbs to moderate their effects. It was the first time that the three of them were witnessing someone consume the blood ginseng and scarlet flame fruit directly. "Zimo, is your body going to be fine consuming them as such?" Xian Yi could not help but ask. "Ugh." Burping, Su Zimo released a heat wave with a blood stench from his mouth. "It's fine, they taste rather all right." He sucked his lips with a relaxed expression. Ordinary golden cores would truly not be able to withstand the blood ginseng and scarlet flame fruit. However, Su Zimo cultivated both as an immortal and demon and had formed a core for both Daos. His blood chi and physique was terrifyingly strong and could absorb the energy of both spirit herbs completely. Right now he was severely injured and his spirit energy was depleted while his blood chi was weak. The most direct method for him would be to consume the spirit herbs directly. After devouring the blood ginseng and scarlet flame fruit, Su Zimo's bloodline circulated violently and absorbed the energies of the two different spirit herbs continuously. Coupled with his body's strong regeneration capabilities, his condition was getting increasingly better. When he saw that it was working, Su Zimo continued consuming spirit herbs as he collected them. It did not matter how they tasted, how tough they were, or whether they had shells, he munched on them and ate everything. Li Ziyue broke out in sweat looking at Su Zimo. He had a hallucination. Su Zimo did not seem like he was human. Instead, he was like an ancient demon that was extremely hungry, grabbing food greedily. Although he sensed the strange gazes of Xian Yi and the other two, Su Zimo did not stop. They were surrounded by strong foes outside. This was the only way for him to recover in the fastest possible time. Before long, Su Zimo and the other three collected most of the spirit herbs in the medicinal field other than those that were nearby the vermilion fruit. Prior to this, Su Zimo had instructed Xian Yi and the other two to not get close to the vermilion fruit no matter what. At that moment, Li Ziyue was a little reluctant to let those spirit herbs go to waste and could not help but inch forward, wanting to collect them. However, he was held back by Su Zimo. "Don't go." Su Zimo had a grim expression and frowned slightly, saying with a soft voice, "The vermilion fruit has already started absorbing." Instead of a great tonic, an unripened vermilion fruit possessed immense poison. Before it was ripe, the vermilion fruit would absorb all the life essence of nearby living beings, whether they were humans or demons. A surging heat wave started spreading. The first to be implicated were the many spirit herbs in the vicinity of the vermilion fruit. Under the shroud of that aura, the spirit herbs withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 10 breaths, many spirit herbs turned into ashes. When he saw that, Li Ziyue gulped and felt a sense of trepidation. If Su Zimo had not held him back earlier on, he would be engulfed by that heat wave when he charged forward and would most likely be doomed. "Let's leave this place first." After consuming many spirit herbs, Su Zimo was clearly in a much better condition, looking refreshed with rosy cheeks. After leaving the underground palace, Su Zimo ignored all the other cultivators and headed in the direction to exit the ruins along with Xian Yi and the other two. Xian Yi and the other two were still carrying injuries that had yet to heal, and it was not convenient for them to battle. Su Zimo did not barge through the palace. Instead, he made use of his powerful vision, hearing and spirit perception to avoid the patrol of the otherworldly soldiers, leading the other three to leave the palace stealthily. Outside the palace, countless malevolent ghosts swarmed over when they sensed the stench of blood from Xian Yi and the other two. A sinister wind gusted and specters surrounded them. However, before long, the malevolent ghosts were scared out of their wits and dispersed when they caught sight of the green-robed cultivator at the front, never appearing again. Su Zimo only stopped when he led Xian Yi and the other two outside the Great Chen ruins. At that moment, daybreak was slowly arriving on the horizons. A resplendent ray of light spilled onto the ruins, making it seem desolate and mysterious. Su Zimo turned back and surveyed the ruins for a short moment before nodding. "No one's following us anymore. Peak Master Xian Yi, the three of you can leave from here. Head straight back to the sect and don't stop." Along the way, Su Zimo made use of his moon concealment bow and killed many cultivators that were following them. Gradually, the cultivators realized that they could not hide their tracks from Su Zimo's senses and wisely chose to give up. "Zimo, you're not coming back with us." Xian Yi frowned tightly with a worried expression. He had lived for hundreds of years and could naturally sense that a blood storm would break out at the Great Chen ruins a month later when the 10,000-year vermilion fruit ripens. Once news of the 10,000-year vermilion fruit was spread, all the golden core paragons of the North region would definitely gather here. In fact, there might even be people from the Immortal and Fiend sects coming forth. At that time, there would definitely not be any one-on-one bouts. Although Su Zimo was strong in combat, he had only just formed his core. How could he deal with so many peerless foes from powerful factions? "Zimo, we've benefited immensely from this trip. It's time for us to stop." Lu Hui said meaningfully, "In the cultivation world, most cultivators die because of their greeds. You have an extreme foundation establishment and have cultivated such a powerful golden core phenomenon. There's a long way ahead for you. There's no need for you to risk your life over a vermilion fruit." Those words came from the bottom of her heart and was also the most logical and safe decision. Xian Yi added, "There are many factions that are stronger than us in the North region. Furthermore, we are too far from the sect. Even if you meet with danger, the sect won't be able to come to your rescue. Zimo, you must be careful." Su Zimo smiled and nodded. "Don't worry, Peak Masters. If the situation doesn't seem right, I'll give up on the vermilion fruit. Chapter 536 Domineering Vermilion Fruit. Chapter 536 Domineering Vermilion Fruit. Xianyi was only relieved when he heard Su Zimo's remark. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo said again, "However, I've got to return because I've still got something on. Peak Masters, please return to the sect first. Don't wait for me." Su Zimo had to get his hands on the 10,000-year vermilion fruit. However, what was even more important to him was the Connate spirit fire that was hidden in the depths of the underground palace. Utmost treasures of the universe as such were often sentient, rare and way too difficult to create. Since he came across it, there was no way Su Zimo would miss it. He was not only going to reforge a new set of 27 supreme-grade flying swords, he even wanted to make use of the Connate spirit fire in the cave to try and repair the mystic gold silk armor and 5 black gold arrows in his storage bag. If he managed to succeed, he would be in possession of a Connate defensive spirit weapon. Even just at early-stage golden core, Su Zimo was confident that he would not be defeated. As for the Connate-grade black gold arrows, coupled with his moon concealment bow, the killing power released by them would be even more terrifying. If someone of a similar combat strength as himself was using the moon concealment bow and fired the black gold arrows, Su Zimo would not dare guarantee that he could escape unscathed. "Zimo, you." Xianyi frowned slightly but did not continue. He knew that Su Zimo had a decisive character. It was hard for outsiders to change a decision made by him. After a moment of hesitation, Xianyi instructed, "Be careful. Don't push beyond your limits." "All right." Su Zimo nodded. Xianyi and the other two had many spirit herbs tucked in their storage bags and they were injured. Fearful that circumstances might change the longer they delayed, they did not dare to linger on. Summoning a spirit vessel, the three of them leaped on it and waved farewell to Su Zimo before turning into a streak of light that gradually vanished by the horizons. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo turned and headed towards the palace. He was not worried that someone else might have gotten their hands on or destroyed the vermilion fruit during this period of time. Now that the vermilion fruit was about to ripen, this was the most dangerous period of time. Any living being that approached the vermilion fruit would have their life essences drained. Along the way, Su Zimo noticed that there were many cultivators speeding away from the ruins. To be precise, they seemed like they were scared out of their wits and were scurrying off. "This is bad. It's bad." A cultivator panted in a pathetic manner. "Everyone run. The vermilion fruit's eating people." Some cultivators had disheveled hair and were only left with one arm. The flesh on their other arm had disintegrated, leaving a hanging white bone as they fled for their lives. Su Zimo sneered internally. There were still ignorant and greedy cultivators that tried to pluck the vermilion fruit, resulting in their life essences drained and their fleshes taken in as a nutrient for the vermilion fruit. Before long, Su Zimo re-entered the underground palace. After walking for a while, he paused in his tracks and looked at the medicinal field. After Su Zimo and the other three collected the spirit herbs, it became bare and barren, leaving a single stalk of vermilion fruit that was extremely striking. And now, fresh white bones were scattered in the vicinity of the vermilion fruit. Every single set of skeleton on the ground had a hand that was reaching forward, as though it was trying to pluck the vermilion fruit. A rough calculation showed that there were around 100 corpses around the vermilion fruit. The vermilion fruit seemed to have gotten even more vibrant. Sparkling, translucent and bright red, it emitted an intoxicating fragrance that attracted nearby living beings. All living beings possess spirit. Humans had the innate capability to kill other living beings. Demon beasts had the innate capability of hunting and certain spirit herbs had the innate capability to lure and kill other living beings too. The life essence draining radius of the vermilion fruit was expanding rapidly. Initially, it was only around the vicinity of the medicinal field. But now it was extending outwards wildly. The stone slab beneath his feet slid to both sides silently, revealing a pitch-black passageway. Leaping down, Su Zimo's figure disappeared. The underground palace went silent once more. Chapter 537 Underground Volcano. Chapter 537 Underground Volcano. Underground Cave. The red lava was flowing slowly, giving off a scorching heat wave. On a parcel of land in the middle of the lava ocean, the little fox stood on both hind legs and placed its tiny paws before its chest. Gazing at the corpse of the demon fox in front of it, a lost, hazy look could be seen in its big, bright eyes. She had been living in fear for the past dozens of years. The fire-blocking basket that looked like a black pot beside her was the final treasure left for her by her mother. The little fox hid in the fire-blocking basket every day, as if that little space was the only place that could make her feel safer. However, in reality, the little fox also knew that it was extremely easy for that gigantic crocodile to kill her. She had never thought about escaping from the claws of that crocodile one day, or even taking revenge for her mother. Everything was all thanks to that demure scholar. The first time she caught sight of the scholar, the little fox had a hunch that he wasn't a bad person. That was the reason why she reminded him to watch out previously. When the demure scholar was devoured by the crocodile, the little fox was despaired, thinking that he was dead for sure and that she would be trapped here for all eternity. However, she was completely shocked by what happened later on. An extremely terrifying flame lit up within the gigantic crocodile and burned its body to complete ashes. As for that demure scholar, he escaped unscathed. Left with no other choice, the crocodile escaped with its essence spirit that was nearly destroyed with a single howl from the scholar. The little fox hurriedly covered the fire-blocking basket and burned the gigantic crocodile's essence spirit to ashes. But now that she had gotten her revenge, the little fox felt hollow within. Just like that, she stood there in a daze for a long time. Suddenly, the furry ears of the little fox twitched and caught wind of some footsteps. There were people coming over. Extremely alert, the little fox locked the fire-blocking basket and hid within immediately, peering through the hole of the basket with its shiny black eyes. Before long, a green figure appeared from the corner. It was the demure scholar who had left in a rush earlier on. Lifting the fire-blocking basket, the little fox tilted its head and blinked its eyes, looking at the demure scholar. At the same time, the demure scholar caught sight of the little fox the moment he turned the corner. Just like that, the man and beast exchanged looks without moving. It was more like a test of trust. After dozens of years of captivity, the little fox turned distrusting and wary towards strangers. Even though the demure scholar helped her kill her enemy, she was also worried that this was the arrival of an even scarier and crueler being after the death of the crocodile. The little fox had witnessed the capabilities of the demure scholar. She was definitely not a match for him. If he were to charge at her with evil intents, she truly did not know what she should do. Right as the little fox was lost in her imagination, the demure scholar smiled and nodded towards her. Instantly, the little fox was relieved and much less guarded upon seeing the demure scholar's smile. Looking at the terrified little fella not far away, Suzimo's eyes flashed with a look of pity and he sighed internally. After being held in captivity here for dozens of years without freedom or daylight and having to live with its enemy every day, the little fella must have suffered a tremendous trauma after such an experience. To begin with, Suzimo cultivated for both immortality and demon and had lived together with monkey, night spirit and other spirit beasts. He could vaguely sense the fear, uncertainty and worry in the little fox's mind. This was a little fella with a pitiful background. Suzimo did not try to console or approach her. At that moment, any abnormal action from him could cause the little fox worry and hostility. Meandering around the border of the cave, Suzimo headed deeper inside. Prior to this, he suffered a sneak attack from the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile and returned to the underground palace for an intense battle thereafter. He did not have the chance to explore this cave at all. If he wanted to refine weapons here, he must not be disturbed. The vermilion fruit outside was still emitting the scarlet mist and nobody would discover this place. What remained was for him to explore the cave and ensure that there was nothing dangerous within. The cave was extremely deep with twists and turns leading to unknown places. As he advanced, Suzimo sent forth his spirit perception and did not sense any danger. On the contrary, the little fox carried its fire-blocking basket that covered more than half of its body and tiptoed, following far behind Suzimo like an iron pot that was moving on its own. Suzimo had a playful thought and suddenly stopped in his tracks, turning back to look at the little fella with a burning gaze. The little fox was rattled and its eyes flashed with panic. Instinctively, it let go of its little paws. Clang! The fire-blocking basket fell to the ground without moving and the little fox hid within with a terrified expression. Suzimo broke out into a chuckle and continued forward. Inside the fire-blocking basket, the little fox gripped its tiny paws in indignance and waved it towards Su Zimo's back view, harumphing softly. In the blink of an eye, when it saw that Su Zimo was going far away, the little fox lifted the fire-blocking basket hurriedly and chased after him in tiptoes. Su Zimo had been curious the entire time as to how the lava ocean was formed within the cave. He had been trying to look for the origin of the lava the entire time but noticed that the temperature in his surroundings was climbing to a point where he could not endure for much longer. Not far away the lava flowed slowly, emitting a scorching heat wave. Suddenly Su Zimo's eyes lit up as he exclaimed softly. There was a thin layer of flames burning on the surface of the lava. However, those flames had a faint yellow color to them. Su Zimo closed and slightly before retreating hurriedly. The temperature of that yellow flame was even higher than the Connate spirit fire. How could this be? Narrowing his gaze, he peered ahead of the lava stream. He had a hunch that the origin of the lava was right ahead. Growl? Suddenly, Su Zimo heard a hurried sound coming from behind him. Turning back, he saw the little fox placing the fire-blocking basket at the side and panting heavily against the heat. Its fiery red fur was already drenched with sweat, looking like it had just climbed out of water. The little fox who had been living in a world of lava could not withstand the temperature here anymore. It shook its head repeatedly, gesturing for Su Zimo to not venture deeper. Hesitating for a moment, Su Zimo spoke, "Your cultivation realm is too low, don't follow me. I'll go in and take a look. If I can't withstand it, I'll definitely retreat." It was only when he spoke that Su Zimo realized his voice had gone hoarse. Taking a deep breath of air, he felt his throat prickling with heat. Wiping the sweat on his forehead, he crushed a few protection talismans before continuing forward. After taking another turn, he stopped in his tracks instinctively and shuddered. Before him was a massive volcano. The lava was spewed from that volcano. At the mouth of the volcano, the lava was golden. Each time the golden magma was spurted, a few drops would flow down along the volcano and melt the rocks along the way. When it flowed down, it turned into the magnificent lava ocean that was seen in the cave. Chapter 538 Coffin in the Lava. Chapter 538, Coffin in the Lava. Su Zimo was already drenched in sweat by the time he arrived before the volcano. The temperature of this place had already surpassed the limits of ordinary cultivators. Even his body that had undergone both immortality and demonic cultivation was feeling a burning pain. Slapping his storage bag, Su Zimo withdrew a superior-grade spirit weapon. The moment he withdrew the superior-grade spirit weapon, the spirit patterns on it dimmed slightly. After 10 breaths, cracks appeared on the superior-grade spirit weapon. It was already showing signs of melting. That's amazing. Su Zimo's pupils constricted slightly and he was secretly shocked. If ordinary golden cores were cast here, they would burn to death without even touching the sparks of the flames. If the temperature in the air was already so high, it was even more terrifying in the lava gushing at the side. Su Zimo was certain that a Connate spirit weapon would melt into molten liquid if it was thrown inside without even creating a bubble. The closer it was to the mouth of the volcano, the higher the temperature. Su Zimo truly could not stand it and his inner core and golden core was churning slowly, causing his blood chi to rise and ancient demons to appear around him one after another. Feeling slightly better, he rose into the air and gazed at the mouth of the volcano not far away. A golden lava was floating in the mouth of the volcano, letting off a shuddering aura and a scorching heat. In fact, Su Zimo suspected that even a nascent soul would be melted by the golden lava, leaving no corpse and a destroyed essence spirit. This is way too scary. With a shocked expression, Su Zimo lamented internally, "This golden lava is good stuff and it's even more terrifying than a Connate spirit fire. If I can store away some of this stuff, it'll definitely be of great use in the future." Thereafter Su Zimo smiled. His lips cracked, trickling with a trace of blood that evaporated instantly. That single thought was naturally just a casual one. The golden lava could even melt a Connate spirit weapon. What could store it? Just as Su Zimo was about to turn and leave, a thought struck him. There was truly an item in his storage bag that he could make an attempt with. The bronze square tripod. Although it was only a battered weapon, it could withstand the corrosion of the scarlet-armored fiend demon's digestive fluids and was extremely tough. Could it be able to withstand the melting power of the golden lava? Su Zimo hesitated for a long time before deciding to give it a shot. He would first place a leg of the bronze square tripod into the golden lava and see if it would melt. Even if it was melted and lost a leg, that would not affect a bronze square tripod that was already abandoned to begin with. At that thought, Suzimo withdrew the bronze square tripod and flew towards the mouth of the volcano. When he arrived at the vicinity of the mouth of the volcano, the heat of the flame became even more terrifying and Suzimo felt his head spin as though he could faint at any moment. The longer he stayed at this place, the more danger he would be in. Gazing at the moving golden lava beneath him, Suzimo did not dare to hesitate as he directed the bronze square tripod slowly into the mouth of the volcano. A leg of the bronze square tripod was about to make contact with the golden lava. Suddenly, the surface of the lava bubbled, as though something was trying to come forth from beneath it. Shocked, Suzimo hurriedly controlled the bronze square tripod to rise into the air. Even so, some golden lava splashed onto the walls of the tripod before sliding down. Suzimo focused his gaze. It was perfectly fine. There was no mark on the spot where the bronze square tripod was splashed by the golden lava. Success. Suzimo was elated. The bubbling golden lava calmed down once more, as though that was only an ordinary reaction. Suzimo controlled the descent of the bronze square tripod, only turning to leave after it was filled with the golden lava. While the golden lava was terrifying and berserk, as if it could incinerate and destroy everything, it was calm when stored inside the bronze square tripod, as though it was isolated from the world. Suzimo did not sense any heat when he carried the bronze square tripod. The body of the tripod was cold as always. The heat of the golden lava was trapped within completely. Leaving the mouth of the volcano, Suzimo placed the bronze square tripod carefully into a separate storage bag and hung it on the side of his waist. Not long after he left, the golden lava in the mouth of the volcano began rumbling and spewing once more. There was something that floated on the surface of the lava. Faintly visible, it seemed like it was a coffin. The coffin was transparent and was made of some unknown material such that there were no signs of burns even as it was immersed in the golden lava. Floating on the surface of the lava, it could be vaguely seen that a woman laid within the coffin. Her palms were closed together and rested before her chest, revealing two smooth, jade-like arms that resembled the texture of an elephant's tusks. The woman had an exquisite figure and exuded a lazy, charming aura as she laid there, seemingly asleep. As the coffin swirled slowly along with the lava, a peerless face appeared and was frighteningly seductive. The peerless woman's eyes were initially closed. All of a sudden, her long lashes twitched slightly and her beautiful eyes showed signs of opening. A shuddering aura began to emanate. The peerless woman could awaken at any moment. There was a slight pause. Going silent again, the peerless woman seemed like she returned to sleep once more. The transparent coffin sank gradually, entering the golden lava and disappearing within. Silence returned to the mouth of the volcano, as though nothing had happened. Suzimo knew nothing about the changes in the deepest part of the cave within the mouth of the volcano. Initially, he did not feel comfortable with the temperature inside the cave. But now that he was returning from the volcano along his original path, he felt cool and could not help but lament internally, the mouth of that volcano is truly purgatory hell. This place is paradise compared to that. The little fox waited at its original position and heaved a slight breath of relief upon seeing Suzimo return safely. After all, he was her benefactor. Even though she was guarded against him, the little fox did not wish for him to meet with misfortunes. Furthermore, she had witnessed the scene of Suzimo in his demon form. In her heart, he was also someone of the demon race. Suzimo only paused in his tracks upon returning to the vicinity of the cave's entrance. Assuming a lotus position, he began to heal up and recuperate his stamina. He did not have the chance to rest at all the entire night. From the fight against the otherworldly soldiers up till daybreak, he had not rested for the entire night and even nearly lost his life in between fighting against a fiend demon. Be it in physically or mentally, Suzimo was at his limits. Prior to this, he consumed many spirit herbs directly in the underground palace. Not much of the tremendous amount of energy contained within those spirit herbs were absorbed by Suzimo and they were accumulated within his body. Now that he was healing his injuries, all of those energies surged forth and entered every single fiber of his. Suzimo's injuries and stamina were rapidly recovering. In the blink of an eye, an entire day had passed. With a bright gaze and rosy cheeks, Suzimo rose with vigor and roared into the skies. Ah! The roar was loud, clear and robust, and no injuries or signs of fatigue could be seen on his body anymore. Feeling the condition of his body, Su Zimo could not help but break out into a faint smile. Those spirit herbs carried fire attribute spirit energy, and coupled with the environment of this place, he discovered that his cultivation had advanced by quite a bit. Chapter 539, Success. Chapter 539, Success. Of course, Su Zimo was still quite a distance away from mid-stage golden core, although his cultivation had advanced. He had just only formed his core. Disregarding the journey taken to reach the Great Chen ruins from Pingyang town, only 2 days had passed. If he hadn't experienced the intense battles in the Great Chen ruins and was merely cultivating in seclusion, he would need years to reach his current point of cultivation. The best way to grow was to grind between the borders of life and death, battling through blood. Furthermore, he was in such a favorable environment and had the help of spirit herbs that were more than 10,000 years old. This was also the reason why many cultivators would choose to explore outside after they reached a bottleneck in their cultivations. While explorations were filled with danger, there were also accompanying opportunities. Calming himself, Su Zimo was ready to attempt to fix his Connate spirit weapons. Not far away, the little fox sat on the fire-blocking basket quietly, gazing over with black, bright gem-like eyes. It had been watching Su Zimo for the entire day. Although it did not get close, Su Zimo could sense that the little fox was much less guarded towards him. If it was previously, given the distrusting nature of that little fella, it would definitely be lifting its fire-blocking basket with bot paws, ready to hide inside at any moment rather than be as relaxed as it was now. Smiling, Su Zimo said, "Little fella, I'm preparing to refine spirit weapons. You must not disturb me during this period of time." When she heard Su Zimo refer to her as little fella, a look of indignance flashed through the little fox's eyes. However, immediately after, the little fox was touched internally upon thinking deeper. That statement revealed a form of trust. The demure scholar was extremely terrifying in combat and could easily restrain her in captivity. That way she would not be able to interrupt his weapon refinement process at all. But now the other party chose to give her his trust instead. Could that person have ulterior motives? The little fox blinked and was still a little worried. After being locked here for dozens of years by the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile, the little fox was fragile mentally and was easily suspicious. Other than her deceased mother, she was constantly guarded against others. She was truly way too terrified. Just as she was imagining things, the demure scholar on the other end had already withdrawn a black gold arrow from his storage bag and began with refinement. Before entering the elementary ancient battlefield, Su Zimo obtained a Connate spirit weapon forging technique from the Great Zhou Palace as a reward for the sect competition. Within it was a method that allowed one to repair a damaged Connate spirit weapon. The so-called damage did not refer to the spirit weapon itself, but the breaking of the sixth spirit pattern. There were no impurities within a damaged Connate spirit weapon. In other words, by using a Connate spirit fire to forge a Connate spirit weapon, one could ignore the first 4 steps of weapon refinement completely and head straight to spirit gathering once the spirit weapon was heated to a scarlet-red state. After gathering 5 spirit patterns, the Connate spirit fire will then be used to rejoin the broken 6th spirit pattern. A single failure in the process would result in the Connate spirit weapon being destroyed. Throughout history, even the top weapon refinement masters could not guarantee that they could gather 6 spirit patterns in a single attempt. In other words, this weapon forging technique was an impossible task in the eyes of other weapon refinement masters. However, in the hands of Su Zimo, there was a chance of repairing the Connate spirit weapon. With the use of his spirit perception, he could ensure a 100% success rate of spirit gathering. Back in the Elixir Pool sect ruins in the elementary ancient battlefield, Su Zimo discovered 5 damaged black gold arrows. There was only one of the mystic gold silk armor, and it was an extremely precious defensive Connate spirit weapon. Su Zimo planned on testing things out with the black gold arrows first. He controlled a black gold arrow and placed it above the Connate spirit fire, receiving the continuous heat. As time passed by, the arrow was heated to a red state and shone transparently from inside out like a fiery ruby. Su Zimo began spirit gathering. 1 spirit pattern. 2 spirit patterns. 3 spirit patterns. 3 spirit patterns were formed in a single attempt without any pauses. Given his talent in weapon refinement, there was a high chance that he could condense the first 3 spirit patterns even without his spirit perception. Su Zimo did not rest at all and started condensing the 4th spirit pattern. His spirit perception sounded. Give up. Another attempt. Not good, give up. Just like that, the 4th spirit pattern was only condensed after the 17th attempt of back and forth. Taking a breath of relief, Su Zimo began condensing the 5th spirit pattern. His luck and condition were both decent and his 5th spirit pattern was condensed on the 3rd attempt. That black gold arrow was a Khanate spirit weapon to begin with and contained no impurities even though it was damaged. That was the reason why Su Zimo was able to condense the 5th spirit weapon with such ease. If he had to choose his own materials, smelt, forge and temper personally, he would definitely not have been able to refine such a flawless arrow. Therefore, the reason why he was able to create the perfect grade blood quencher the other time was due to the confluence of multiple factors and a little bit of luck. Right now, the black gold arrow was already a perfect spirit weapon. However, Su Zimo was not pleased yet. The final step was the most critical. While perfect spirit weapons were rare and possessed extraordinary strength, there was a massive difference between them and Khanate spirit weapons. There was a leap in quality. Khanate spirit fires were innately sentient. Su Zimo attempted to condense a spirit pattern on the foundation of the broken 6th spirit pattern on the black gold arrow, repairing it slowly. The process was arduous and repetitive. In fact, he did not even know if he could succeed. However, Su Zimo had never thought about giving up and he continued trying relentlessly with a resolute gaze. An entire day passed. Far away, the little fox was tired of watching and dozed off with heavy eyelids, sleeping a few times. Each time she reopened her eyes, Su Zimo was sitting there in the same position and repeated the same motions over and over again. Not only did Su Zimo not take a break throughout the entire day, he maintained the same focus and it was a great test of his stamina and determination. Of course, all of his efforts were worth it. Su Zimo could clearly see that the 6th spirit pattern on the black gold arrow, its originally broken Khanate spirit pattern, was showing signs of reparation and was turning brighter. The spirit energy fluctuation on the black gold arrow was also getting more obvious. 2 hours later. The drowsy little fox was awakened suddenly by a brilliant glow and instinctively opened its eyes to look over. In front of Su Zimo, the initially dim black gold arrow was shining with 6 resplendent glows at the moment, emitting a terrifyingly sharp intent that could pierce anything. The little fox knew that Su Zimo succeeded. For some unknown reason, she felt elated as well and smiled, making her eyes seem like crescent moons. Su Zimo put away the black gold arrow and was delighted when he looked at the spirit patterns. Success. With the black gold arrow, coupled with the moon concealment bow, his killing power would rise to another level. If he could repair the black gold arrow, he could naturally repair the mystic gold silk armor. This meant that apart from the coiling dragon seal, Su Zimo was now in possession of other Khanate spirit weapons, the mystic gold silk armor and black gold arrows. At the same time, he also had the quasi-Khanate moon concealment bow. Even legacy disciples of Tianhuang mainland super sects, ancient aristocratic families or top factions might not be as wealthy as him. Chapter 544 Gentries. Chapter 540, 4 Gentries. When the news of the 10,000-year Vermilion fruit spread, countless gazes were attracted. Various other news, real and fake, accompanied it. There was talk of an underground palace hidden beneath the Great Qian ruins. There was talk of a medicinal field with countless treasures in the underground palace. There was talk of a cultivator obtaining an extremely powerful Khanate spirit weapon in the ruins. The entire north region was shaken. The interest towards the Great Qian ruins from the cultivation world of the north region had gradually died down in the past 10,000 years. But now, with the massive spread of news one after another, it proved that there were possibly undiscovered secrets in the Great Qian ruins. Furthermore, the allure of the 10,000-year Vermilion fruit was way too great for golden cores. Nobody could resist such a temptation. Cultivators from the 4 dynasties of the north region started moving. The successors of multiple major sects and factions came out of seclusion, claiming boldly that they wanted to fight for the Vermilion fruit. Even some of the reclusive cultivation gentry clans declared that they were sending their respective golden core paragons towards the Great Qian ruins. Right away the world was moving. In less than half a month, a storm gathered in the vicinity of the Great Qian ruins with countless heroes. Instantly the atmosphere turned tense and murderous. There was only one vermilion fruit. Who in the north region could obtain it? 15 days later. Two cultivators arrived in the vicinity of the Great Qian ruins, a man and a woman. The man had a face full of beard and rough facial appearances, striding widely while wearing heavy armor. The woman had extraordinary features and carried a long sword on her waist. Her black hair fell like a waterfall and her robes were white as snow, extremely graceful. They were Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan, leaders of the capital of Great Zhou's Azure Falcon and White Hawk squads respectively. Both of them had already cultivated to perfected Golden Core realm and were here on the orders of the Emperor. The Emperor of Great Zhou saw through the situation clearly and knew that the Great Qian ruins would definitely be filled with Paragons competing. The Great Zhou dynasty did not stand a chance at all. That was the reason why the Great Zhou did not send any army of cultivators but instead, only Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan. They were not here for the vermilion fruit, merely to check out the secrets of the Great Qian ruins and see if they could come across any opportunities. There were many sects and factions bearing the same thoughts. There were also a number of itinerant cultivators that headed over, wanting to take advantage of the chaos. All of those itinerant cultivators were not strong and would not have dared to venture into the Great Qian ruins alone. Now that there were many paragons of various major sects and gentry families opening the path, the malevolent ghosts and otherworldly soldiers were not a threat at all. Those itinerant cultivators could also seize the chance to explore the Great Qian ruins. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan looked at the desolate, mysterious ruins ahead with hesitant expressions. Normally speaking, the two of them should enter and explore it first. But now, the situation at the Great Qian ruins was overly chaotic and they had already witnessed much fighting along the way here. The closer they got to the Great Qian ruins, the more tense the situation became. All of a sudden, Mu Dongqing's expression changed and he pulled Bai Yuhan down to squat as the both of them hid in the wild grass around them that was taller than a man's height. "Someone's here," Mu Dongqing whispered. Not long after he spoke, a series of figures appeared in the distant horizon. A single glance showed that there were more than 1,000 of them and they were all floating on thin air. All of them were golden cores. Each of the golden cores wore heavy armor and bore cold expressions. They were in an orderly formation and were clearly disciplined. Bai Yuhan frowned slightly and whispered, "That seems to be the army of the Great Yu dynasty." "Yes." Mu Dongqing nodded. Someone leaked the news that the other three dynasties made their move as well. To think that the Great Yu dynasty would send this many people. Their leader seems to be the golden core genius of the Great Yu dynasty, Gu Luonan. "It's him?" Mu Dongqing had a stern expression. By the looks of it, the Great Yu dynasty seems to want to fight badly for the vermilion fruit. Arriving before the Great Qian ruins, Gu Luonan paused for a moment and waved his arm, leading the golden cores behind him to charge into the ruins. Thud, thud, thud. All of a sudden, a shuddering sound could be heard from the distant horizons, rumbling like thunder as though a massive army was arriving. Before long, dozens of ancient war chariots appeared, pulled by divine steeds prancing in the air. The chariots charged over with an endless killing intent. War flags flew everywhere, fluttering loudly. There were around 3 people on each chariot, all wearing battle armor and emitting a steely aura with sharp gazes. The arrival of the dozens of ancient chariots was majestic and instantly attracted countless gazes. The cultivators nearby the ruins could vaguely feel their hearts thumping. 2 gigantic words were written on the war flags, Taba. "They're from the Taba clan." Mu Dongqing's heart skipped a beat. Apart from the 4 dynasties, there were 4 gentry clans in the north region. The Murong, Yuan, Dugu and Taba clans. These 4 gentry clans existed at the establishment of the Great Qian Empire and had a long lineage. When the capital was destroyed overnight 10,000 years ago, leading to the split of the Great Qian Empire, the 4 gentry clans left the control of the Great Qian Empire one after another as well. The 4 gentry clans were cultivation clans with immense strength and deep foundations that even surpassed Great Zhou and the other 3 dynasties. To think that even golden cores of the Taba would be here. I heard that paragons of the 4 gentry clans have arrived, wanting to claim the vermilion fruit and reign over the north region. Their leader seems to be the peerless genius of the Taba clan, Taba Feng. With a nasty temper and a cruel character, he loves to fight. There were other cultivators hiding nearby Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan, discussing in hushed whispers. Among the dozens of chariots, only one of them led by the front. Pulled by 5 extremely long divine steeds, the sounds of their neighs were shuddering. A single person stood on the chariot with a mighty figure and a haughty aura, letting off a feeling of savageness. When Gu Luonan of the Great Yu dynasty caught sight of that person, his expression changed and he took a breath of air before revealing a faint smile, cupping his fists. "It's you, Brother Taba? I've long heard of your great name." This was a common pleasantry between cultivators, but it attracted stifled laughter from the Taba clansmen. Taba Feng swept his gaze over and hollered, "Where did this ant come from? How dare you call me on equal terms?" His words showed no respect for Gu Luonan at all. Gu Luonan was also a top-tier expert of the Golden Core realm and had never endured such ridicule before. Instantly, his expression darkened. Upon seeing that, Taba Feng sneered, Good. How dare you give me such an attitude? Don't leave then. All of you shall stay here." "Kill?" Slapping his storage bag, Taba Feng retrieved an extremely domineering halberd. Waving his arm with a holler, he whipped the ropes and his chariot charged over. The Taba clansmen behind him followed his orders and dozens of chariots moved at the same time. The war drums echoed deafeningly. The aura was so immense that it seemed like it could crush everything. "Prepare for battle." Gu Luonan's expression changed. He had not expected that a single statement from him would cause a huge battle to break out. Boom. The dozens of chariots charged into the Great Yu army murderously, tearing apart the Golden Core army that had more than 1,000 people. That single charge caused nearly 100 Golden Cores to be trampled into meat sludge by the chariots. At the front, Taba Feng was even more terrifying, standing at the front of the chariot waving his halberd with frightening strength. None of the Golden Cores could survive a single round against him. Everywhere the chariots passed, a trail of blood would appear. One after another, figures fell from the skies helplessly. Chapter 541 Grand Gathering. Chapter 541, Grand Gathering. It was too tragic. In the ruins, the lives of Golden Cores were akin to grass. In less than 15 minutes, that orderly Golden Core army of the Great Yu dynasty was trampled by the dozens of chariots from the Taba clan and more than half were injured or dead. Corpses were strewn everywhere and tragic cries howled. The Great Yu army had broken apart completely and the remaining cultivators fled far away without turning back. The Golden Core genius of the Great Yu dynasty, Gu Luonan, was defeated by Taba Feng within 3 blows. Slicing Gu Luonan's head off with his halberd, Taba Feng held the head in his hand. With a torrential aura, he stomped on Gu Luonan's corpse and smacked his lips, sneering, "What dog's hit genius is this? There are no lack of geniuses in this generation." Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan were horrified when they witnessed the scene and shivered uncontrollably. The two of them witnessed Gu Luonan releasing his Golden Core phenomenon to try and flee. However, it was destroyed with a single slash of Taba Feng's halberd and his head was severed. Without even using his Golden Core phenomenon, Taba Feng killed Gu Luonan while destroying the Great Yu army. He tossed the bloodied head of Gu Luonan casually on the ground and scoffed coldly. "You're not even fit to ride on my chariot with your strength." Narrowing his gaze, Mu Dongqing could vaguely see dozens of heads scattered on Taba Feng's chariots. Most of them were dried and only a few were stained with fresh blood. "I heard that Taba Feng loves to murder geniuses. Each time he murders a genius, he would sever the latter's head and place it on his chariot. I've heard that he claimed brazenly he was going to slaughter all Paragons of Tianhuang mainland and fill his chariot." A hushed whisper sounded from the grass nearby. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan exchanged glances. Both of them could see the shock in the other's eyes. There were dozens of chariots from the Taba clan arriving for this expedition. At the most, they had less than 100 people. However, they were able to destroy an army with more than 1,000 Golden Cores. The strength of the Taba clan was clear. Thud. Not far away, another group of ancient chariots charged over with war flags raised, etched with the word Yuan. Another of the Gentry clans, the Yuan clan, had arrived. Humph. The leader of the Yuan clan was scrawnier like a bamboo pole and sneered, "Taba, those are merely ants with mediocre strength. What's there to flaunt about?" Yuan Wuxia. Taba Feng turned the chariot and whipped his rope with a raring battle intent in his eyes, hollering, "You've come at the right time. Killing those ants wasn't enjoyable at all. I've still kept a spot on my chariot for your head." Without a second word, Taba Feng led his chariot and charged towards Yuan Wuxia. "Do you think I'll be afraid of you?" Yuan Wuxia was clearly unafraid and retrieved a golden three-pronged spear from his storage bag. It looked extremely heavy and unbefitting with his scrawny size. Kill? The two of them soared into the air at the same time and bellowed. The halberd and golden three-pronged spear collided fiercely, releasing a shuddering shockwave in midair. A burst of light shot forth, blazing like the sun with a blinding radiance. There were more cultivators gathering in the vicinity and alarmed yells could be heard from the crowd. Mu Dongqing was a body-tempered cultivator with immense strength. He wielded a gigantic hammer and was unstoppable. However, compared to the two paragons before him, Mu Dongqing felt that he was way too weak. This is a true paragon. Mu Dongqing could not help but shake his head and lament, either of them could kill me in less than 3 moves. Deafening sounds could be heard as the paragons of the two gentry clans, Taba Feng and Yuan Wuxia, fought in midair and it was hard to determine the victor. The voids would quake with every single clash. As the attacks continued, Taba Feng got increasingly serious and the ferocity in his eyes shimmered. Circulating his golden core furiously, a terrifying aura spread out from around him. It was a golden core phenomenon. Yuan Wujia's pupils constricted rapidly and he withdrew right away, hollering, "Taba Feng, you're insane. How dare you try and use a golden core phenomenon?" Golden core phenomenons were the strongest means available to golden cores and they wouldn't be able to reuse it within a short period of time upon release. In other words, if someone activated their golden core phenomenon during an intense battle, it meant that they were determined to go for the kill. While Yuan Wuxia was displeased with Taba Feng, he retained his sanity. The vermilion fruit had not ripened yet. If the both of them were to reveal all their trump cards and release their golden core phenomenons here, it would only result in an internecine outcome and allow outsiders to gain the advantage. Taba Feng's golden core phenomenon had not formed fully and in reality, he was hesitant internally as well. But when he sensed the gazes from the surroundings, Taba Feng was pumped and declared coldly, "Fuck that. I'll kill you today. The both of you cut it out." Suddenly, a cold and charming voice sounded. Bang, boom, boom. A series of ancient chariots arrived with a formidable aura, causing the clouds to disperse and the firmaments to quake. These ancient chariots were only available for the gentry aristocratic families. It was the arrival of yet another major cultivation clan. The war flag on the chariots displayed a striking word, Muron. A woman stood on the chariot at the front, wearing blue palace robes with a tall, slim and voluptuous figure. Although she did not have makeup on, she possessed flawless fairy-like features with an arrogance that was unique to the gentry clans. The person who spoke earlier on was this woman. When he saw the woman, Yuan Wuxia yelled hurriedly, "Muron Wushuang, you've come at the right time. Help me control this madman." "Humph, none of you shall control my actions today." Although that was what Taba Feng said, it was clear that his tone had softened. "Our 4 gentry clans are related through history. We can spar, but there's no need to get into a life-and-death bout." Muron Wushuang commented indifferently, "Besides, the vermilion fruit isn't ripe yet. What's the point of you guys fighting? To let outsiders laugh at us?" Sweeping his gaze towards the cultivators watching from the surroundings, Taba Feng hollered with a cold killing intent in his eyes, "Who would dare to laugh at me? All of you scram further." The many cultivators were shocked and retreated hurriedly. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan seized the chaotic moment to escape outside as well. The ruins were way too scary. This battle was merely a scene that was replicating similar battles in other parts of the Great Chen ruins. Before they even caught sight of the vermilion fruit, people were fighting till rivers of blood were formed. Once the vermilion fruit truly appeared, what sort of a blood storm would that be? The group retreated, leaving a single person walking forward silently in a striking manner. Instantly, everyone's gazes focused on that person. That person wore black robes and had black hair. Expressionless and stiff, there were no emotions in his eyes as he walked towards the depths of the Great Chen ruins holding a long sword in his pale left hand. Who is that? How dare he ignore the threat of Taba Feng? I think his brains must be dead. It's easy to tell that he's an idiot with a paralyzed face. He truly doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he challenge the 3 gentry clans alone? Many cultivators nearby discussed in hushed voices with mocking expressions. The person did not move quickly. To be precise, compared to the speed of cultivators, he was extremely slow. The black-robed sword cultivator walked slowly towards the depths of the ruins like a mortal, ignoring the many chariots of the 3 gentry clans in the air and the strong cultivators. One step after another. Chapter 542 10 Upper Sects. Chapter 542 10 Upper Sects. The cultivators of the 3 gentry clans seemed to have frozen in midair, and complete silence ensued as none of them moved. After the arrival of the black-robed swordsman, even the unbearable Taba Fong with his torrential ferocity earlier on quietened down. A hint of wariness could be seen from the depths of his eyes. The scene that everyone expected did not happen. On the contrary, the black-robed swordsman continued walking beneath the 3 gentry clans in an unhurried manner, step by step, just like that, under countless gazes. That was not a distance that was considered far for cultivators. Be it with movement techniques or riding on their swords, it would merely take slightly more than 100 breaths. However, that black-robed swordsman walked for a whole 15 minutes. The stranger thing was that nobody stopped him or even spoke throughout the entire time. It was as though everyone's throats were choked. Murong Wushuang frowned slightly, and there was an odd look in the way she watched the black-robed swordsman. It seemed like pity, admiration, and even worry. It was conflicted and complicated. The black-robed swordsman seemed indifferent towards everyone's fiery gazes. His gaze was a little lost, seemingly unable to find a focal point. Walking forward step by step unhurriedly, he maintained his speed and slowly disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Who was that man? The cultivators watching were no fools and gradually returned to their senses. There's still one more gentry clan. There's a high chance that he is the paragon of the Dugu clan. Now that you mention it, I seem to recall that there's a frightening golden core sword cultivator of the Dugu clan known as Dugu Jian. He lives for the blade. I've also heard about him before. It's said that he keeps to himself and has no kin or friends. For the past dozens of years, he is only accompanied by his black sword and has truly reached the realm of requiring nothing but his sword. When she heard the discussions nearby, Bai Yuhan whispered, Dongqing, seems like the Dugu clan has given up on the fight for the vermilion fruit. Otherwise they wouldn't have sent him here alone. Not necessarily. Mu Dongqing shook his head. Apart from people like us that have given up on fighting for the vermilion fruit and are just here to take advantage of the chaos, there's another possibility why some of them are here alone or in pairs. Why? Bai Yuhan asked. That man is so scary that he doesn't even need the help of others. In midair, Taba Fong had already retracted his golden core phenomenon when the black-robed swordsman appeared. After the black-robed swordsman was gone, he heaved a sigh of relief and laughed. Here I was thinking why there was no one from the Dugu clan with our 3 clans here. So they sent that man with the paralyzed face. The black-robed swordsman was expressionless the entire time, and Taba Fong was naturally only mocking him with the paralyzed face term. Not far away, a cultivator could not help but chuckle. Paralyzed face. Hee, how befitting. Murong Wushuang's expression darkened and she turned slightly. Without a single word, she waved her sleeves and a streak of light appeared instantly, shooting into that cultivator's glabella before vanishing. There was a thud. That person's head exploded and he fell to the ground, dead, with his blood and brain juices splattering everywhere. The crowd fell into an uproar. The cultivators nearby were frightfully pale and retreated instinctively, looking up into the skies with a sense of trepidation at that murderous, peerless woman on the ancient chariot. With a cold face, Murong Wushuang said slowly, Do you think the likes of you can make fun of anyone from the 4 gentry clans? No one replied. Taba Fong, Yuan Wujia and Murong Wushuang stood on midair with a bedazzling aura, resembling gods that were looking down at puny mortals with judgmental gazes. Who would dare reply under such pressure? Turning around, Murong Wushuang glared at Taba Fong and remarked coldly, Taba Fong, don't say that I didn't warn you, but you had better watch your mouth. Trouble stems from the mouth. Ha! Taba Fong regained his arrogance after the departure of the black-robed swordsman and roared into laughter. It's none of your business. I can say whatever I like. All right. With a frosty stare, Murong Wushuang said, Since you're so daring, go chase after Dugu and repeat your words. Taba Feng's expression darkened and he harumphed without retorting. Heaving a deep breath, Murong Wushuang composed herself and said indifferently, Don't blame me for not reminding you guys, but there's news that the legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects of the North region are coming. When they heard that, Taba Feng and Yuan Wujia knitted their brows. It's not going to be so simple to pluck the vermilion fruit and claim dominance over the Golden Core realm in the North region. Even successors of the ancient aristocratic families of the North region might appear. With that said, Murong Wushuang waved her hand and led the dozens of chariots behind her to speed into the Great Qian ruins. Taba Feng and Yuan Wujia calmed down as well and left respectively, giving up on their fight with a tacit understanding. In the blink of an eye, peace returned to the skies at the boundaries of the ruins. With so many talents aiming for the same goal, even the Paragons of the 4 Gentry clans may not be able to get the vermilion fruit. That's right. Haven't you heard that the legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects are rushing over too? There's definitely going to be a great war between the Paragons at that time. Seems like that vermilion fruit is not only a universal treasure, there's an even deeper meaning to it. Whoever gains the vermilion fruit is the number 1 perfected being of the North region. The intermediate ancient battlefield will open up in another 20 years. A victor must be decided with this gathering of the Paragons of major factions and sects of the North region. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan exchanged grim glances as they heard the discussions. The situation at the Great Qian ruins was even more chaotic and frightening than they had imagined. What are the 10 upper sects? Bai Yuhan asked. Mu Dongqing reminisced and replied, I heard the nascent souls in the palace mention about it unintentionally in the past. It said that there are 108 upper clans that are ranked beneath the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sections. Most of them are congregated within the Middle Continent and some of them are scattered in the North, South, East and West regions. There are 10 of them in the North region. What sort of sects can be regarded as upper sects? I'm not sure. Mu Dongqing shook his head. It said that the strength of an upper sect requires the support of a conjoint body mighty figure. Conjoint body mighty figure. The mention of those words caused Bai Yuhan's heart to skip a beat. There were 9 major realms of cultivation: Qi condensation, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, void reversion, dharma characteristic, conjoint body, Mahayana and the legendary tribulation transcendence. The reason why the Great Zhou dynasty could be established and withstand close to 10,000 years was because there was a dharma characteristic Tao Lord backing the capital. How terrifying would it be if upper sects had the backing of a conjoint body mighty figure? How many dharma characteristic Tao Lords would they have under them? What sort of strength would their Paragons possess as well? One would truly only understand that there's always someone better than them upon leaving the Great Zhou dynasty and experience the true terror of the cultivation world. At the Middle Continent, the origin of cultivation where the culture of cultivation was the most glorious with the most super sects and factions gathered, how majestic would things be over there? Chapter 543 Trust. Chapter 543, Trust. All of a sudden, a shuddering aura surged from the edge of the horizon. The weather had changed. Ow! A long horn sound rang through the world. Many cultivators looked over and their expressions changed. At the edge of the skies, gigantic spirit vessel warships a few thousand feet long with mysterious patterns etched on them hovered and shone brightly. Tearing through the air, the spirit vessels had a domineering aura and a rampant might. One after another, figures with powerfully shuddering auras stood at their bows. The successors of upper sects have arrived at the ruins. That's the spirit vessel of one of the 10 upper sects, Heaven Motion Sect. Their leader should be the Paragon of Heaven Motion Sect, Long Wenyu. The spirit vessels passed over the cultivators one after another, forming gigantic shadows that covered the skies. Not long after Heaven Motion Sect passed, many more spirit vessels tore through the clouds. The vessels were pitch black and eerie, resembling hell boats floating in the seas of hell. One of the 10 upper sects, Dark Ghost Sect. Be careful not to be targeted by anyone from Dark Ghost Sect or you'll definitely live an existence worse than death. There are countless malevolent ghosts and otherworldly soldiers in the Great Qian ruins. That's a complete terrain advantage for Dark Ghost Sect. The spirit vessels of Dark Ghost Sect steered into the Great Qian ruins. Not long after, more battleships arrived. The first ancestors of the Gentry clans were cultivation warriors that conquered deserts. Therefore, their clansmen would travel with ancient chariots. The upper clans were different from the North region Gentry clans. Most of them traveled using spirit vessels. That's the worship of one of the 10 upper sects, Blaze Columbus Valley. Raring flames blazed on the newly arrived warships and the clouds in the air were burned scarlet, displaying a dismal beauty. I heard that the paragon of Blaze Columbus Valley, Wang Yan, came here previously and was nearly killed. Who could be so strong? I'm not sure. It's probably the legacy disciple of another upper sect. I heard that the paragon of Stellar Luna sect died. There's no way Stellar Luna sect is going to let this go. There's already 3 of the 10 upper sects here now, and I garner the other 7 should be arriving soon. Seems like the rumors are for real. Needless to think, a great battle would definitely break out in the Great Chen ruins once the Vermilion fruit was ripe 15 days later. At that time, paragons would be drenched in blood and no one knew who would survive the massive storm. This could be considered as a test. Only paragons that survive bloodbaths could truly be considered as peerless paragons and leave an unshakable name in the intermediate ancient battlefield 20 years later. With a stern expression, Mu Dongqing contemplated for a long time before saying slowly, "The situation is getting way too complicated in the Great Chen ruins." "Why do you say that?" Bai Yuhan could tell that he had more to his mind. Mu Dongqing frowned. "Have you noticed that despite the grand commotion at the Great Chen ruins, a single nascent soul has yet to appear?" Bai Yuhan nodded. She had noticed this long ago too. The Vermilion fruit doesn't have much effect for nascent souls and they're probably not attracted by it, Bai Yuhan deduced. While that is true, it's impossible that none of them appeared at all. That doesn't make sense. What do you have in mind? Mu Dongqing mulled deeply. I'm guessing that some of the nascent souls have already arrived. What do you mean by that? Bai Yuhan's eyes widened. Mu Dongqing replied, there are too many factions involved in this fight for the Vermilion fruit. If nascent souls interfered, they would definitely destroy the balance. As you've mentioned, it's truly not worth it for nascent souls to fight for a single Vermilion fruit. Therefore, I garner that there's most probably a silent agreement between the nascent souls of the various major factions to not interfere so that the younger generation can take a truly decisive battle to see who could reign supreme among the Golden Core realm. It's very likely that all the nascent souls are hidden and watching to see the outcome of this battle. Bai Yuhan frowned and fell into deep thought upon hearing his guess. Underground cave. A resplendent light shone above the scarlet lava and a faint yellow inner armor hovered in midair beautifully. On the shore, a demure green-robed cultivator wiped away the sweat on his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief, finally letting off a faint smile. The green-robed cultivator was none other than Su Zimo. After entering the underground cave, he merely spent 5 days repairing the 5 black gold arrows. However, it took him 10 days to repair the mystic gold silk armor. For the past 15 days, Su Zimo did not rest for a single moment and was tense. He was already at his limits physically and mentally by doing spirit gathering continuously. However, it was all worth it. The 5 black gold arrows and the mystic gold silk armor were all Khanate spirit weapons. Su Zimo's combat strength had just climbed yet another level. Su Zimo stretched and removed his green robes, preparing to don the mystic gold silk armor. However, his actions caused the furry red ball beside his feet to wake up. The little fox yawned and pushed against Su Zimo's thigh with its head and groggy eyes, expressing its displeasure. Su Zimo smiled. Over the past 15 days, the little fox had let down its guard towards him entirely. Initially, this little thing hid and watched him from afar. When it was tired, it slept and continued watching after it woke up. After a few days, when the little fox saw that Su Zimo ignored her, she advanced and closed in. When she realized that she was still not in danger after another day, she closed the distance again. A few days later, the little fox lay down beside Su Zimo's feet directly. She used his thighs as her pillow and felt extremely comfortable. She had never had a sleep as good as this for dozens of years. After waking up, the little fox rubbed her eyes and the first thing she saw was Su Zimo changing his clothes. Instantly, she blushed and grumbled internally, everything about this man is good except the fact that he loves to be nude. Su Zimo was indifferent and wore the mystic gold silk armor. It felt cooling on his skin and extremely comfortable. The mystic gold silk armor was thin as the wings of cicadas, but it was unyielding and could adjust to the figure of any cultivator. It was truly a rare utmost treasure. After successfully repairing the Khanate spirit weapon, Su Zimo was in great spirits and wore his green robes once more. Looking at the little fox beside him, he could not help but reach out and touch her furry body. Initially, the little fox wanted to dodge by instinct. However, she blinked and stayed where she was, allowing Su Zimo to rub her body gently. Little fox. Grinning, Su Zimo said with a playful look in his eyes, "Do you know that when you sleep, you snore really loudly?" Damn scholar. How can you say something like that aloud? The little fox froze up with an embarrassed expression and turned to Su Zimo's palm before biting down viciously. Yelp. The little fox exclaimed. Su Zimo's palm was fine, but her teeth nearly cracked as she gasped coldly. When he saw that, Su Zimo could not help but burst out into laughter. Pursing her lips and blinking, the little fox's alluring eyes misted up and bean-sized teardrops rolled around, looking pitiful as if she had suffered great grievances. Su Zimo put away his smile hurriedly and fondled her forehead, saying with a fake sternness, "But to be honest, your snoring is unlike ordinary snoring. Yes, it's nicer." The little fox bawled and broke out into tears. Chapter 544, Gathering of Nascent Souls. Chapter 544, Gathering of Nascent Souls. The little fox bawled and lifted the fire-blocking basket with her tiny paws, running away in a huff. Smiling, Su Zimo sat down and laid backwards, using his arms as a pillow for his head. Closing his eyes, a faint demonic glint flickered as he fell into thought. After crying for a little while, the little fox hid in a corner and drew circles on the ground, grinding her brain juices to insult Su Zimo. "Stupid scholar, why you really suck. Stupid scholar, you're a bad person. You're even badder than that stupid dead crocodile." The little fox spent her entire life in this underground cave and had never seen the outside world or come into contact with anyone. Although she was wary by nature, she was also innocent and naive like a virgin. The most vicious words she could come up with were to compare Su Zimo as being worse than the crocodile. Even though she had lived for dozens of years, it was a negligible amount of time compared to the long lifespans of demons, and her mind was similar to a human child. Before long she was bored. Turning around, the little fox looked at Su Zimo instinctively. His eyes were closed and he was motionless except for his ears that were twitching. What is he doing? The little fox was curious and tiptoed over, completely forgetting that he made fun of her earlier on. Because her cultivation realm was not high enough, she could not hear the sounds coming from the palace above the cave. However, Su Zimo possessed universal hearing. Even thousands of feet underground, he could vaguely hear the sounds above in the palace. The palace had not been peaceful for the past half a month. Furthermore, the commotion was clearly getting bigger. All the golden core paragons of the North region might have gathered here with the birth of the Vermilion fruit. Although Su Zimo managed to defend against strong foes of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects single-handedly when the human emperor's palace descended in the ancient battlefield, the current situation was not looking good for him. At that time, he was a 7-Meridian Foundation establishment cultivator for his Immortality cultivation and had attained greater mastery on his orifice clearing section for his demonic cultivation. He was almost at the peak and was a single step away from forming a core. At that time he was comparable to the paragons of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sect paragons in terms of cultivation realm. But now he was at early-stage golden core and had yet to attain lesser mastery of his inner core. The weakest of the paragons that gathered were at late-stage golden core, and there might even be perfected golden cores. There was a difference of up to 3 minor realms. Of course, those 3 minor realms did not mean much to Su Zimo, who had both immortality and demonic cultivation. He was still confident that he could suppress everyone in a one-on-one battle. However, there's a high chance he might make enemies with all the paragons of the North region by fighting for the Vermilion fruit. At that time, it would be hard to stand victorious against the combined attacks of countless paragons. He managed to cultivate twin phenomenons, and both of them were lost primordial phenomenons. However, at the end of the day he only had 2. At that time, there would be hundreds or thousands of golden core phenomenons by paragons, and that was a destructive power that was unimaginable. He might not be able to handle everything with his spirit energy as an early-stage golden core. Furthermore, there were golden core phenomenons stronger than the soaring serpent and divine turtle as well. Glass Palace of the 9 immortal sects and Malevolent Earth sect of the 7 Fiend sects were located in the North region. If the paragons of those 2 super sects were to head over, it would definitely be a threat for Su Zimo. Of course, there was something else he was wary about. Would any nascent souls appear for the appearance of this Vermilion fruit? How would things end if nascent souls interfered? Su Zimo's wild thoughts made his eyelids heavy. He was truly way too tired, and right now, the only thing he wanted was to have a good night's rest. His comprehension on weapon refinement had advanced again as he repaired the Khanate spirit weapons. There's another 15 days left. That's enough for me to refine a set of 27 supreme-grade flying swords. With that thought, Suzimo drifted into sleep. The little fox had just arrived beside Suzimo when she saw that he had fallen asleep. Furthermore, there was a strange sound coming from his nose. It sounded like tigers, leopards, and thunder. Humph. Pouting, she thought to herself, how dare this stupid scholar laugh at me when he snores so loudly. Even though those were her thoughts, she did not disturb Suzimo. She could tell that he was tuckered out. The sound from Suzimo's nose was naturally due to the marrow cleansing section. The breathing and expiration method of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness was already infused in Suzimo's marrow and would activate instinctively even if he was asleep. Body tempering, tendons transformation, bones strengthening, marrow cleansing, organs refinement, orifice clearing, core formation. The 7 sutras reverberated within his body, forming a cycle. His rich demonic chi rose and started spreading. The little fox watched everything with widened eyes in disbelief. Is this scholar a human or demon? She could not figure it out at all. To her shock, she realized that her exposure to the demonic chi that was released from Suzimo's cultivation moved her cultivation that had been stagnant for a long time. Hee. Delighted, the little fox inched forward again and stuck closely to Suzimo's arm before starting to cultivate. There was a big pavilion 5 kilometers away from Great Chen ruins. Unlike the desolate ruins, this place was lush with greenery and willow trees stood in rows, filled with life. There were 4 stone tables in the pavilion. Beside each table sat 3 to 4 cultivators in weird attires. Some of them wore robes, some of them wore armor, and others wore tight exercise attire. More than 10 people sat by sipping tea idly with relaxed expressions, discussing with soft voices. Outside the pavilion, there were more than 100 cultivators waiting. Standing outside, all of their expressions were much worse as they looked at the people inside the pavilion with deep fear and wariness. If Mu Dongxing were to see this, he would definitely be shocked. Be it the 10-odd people inside the pavilion or the 100-odd outside, all of them were nascent souls. As he had expected, the nascent souls made their moves for the vermilion fruit. In the pavilion, 3 people sat around one of the stone tables with badges on their waists that stated Murong, Yuan, and Taba. They were from the 4 Gentry clans. There were emblems on the waists of the nascent souls sitting around the other 3 stone tables. Stellar Luna Sect, Blaze Columbus Valley Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect, Heaven Motion Sect, 7 Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult, Dragon Tiger Sect, and Shadowless Sect. Those were 9 of the 10 upper sects other than Dark Ghost Sect. The nascent souls in the pavilion were either from the 10 upper sects or the 4 Gentry clans. As for the nascent souls that stood obediently outside the pavilion, they were from ordinary sects and factions as well as some unknown itinerant cultivators. Among them, the nascent souls of the Great Shang and Great Xia dynasties stood outside as well, not daring to have any opinions. Earlier on, when the Golden Core army of the Great Yu dynasty was murdered by the Taba clan, the nascent soul of Great Yu was enraged and wanted to head for the Great Chen ruins. However, a nascent soul of the Taba clan attacked and killed him in 3 moves. Up till now, the blood of the Great Yu nascent soul's corpse had yet to dry. Laying in front of the pavilion, his body was still warm from his indignant death. That was not the only corpse around the pavilion. In the North region, the combined force of the 10 upper sects and 4 Gentry clans was almost absolute. Chapter 545, Revenge. Chapter 545, Revenge. Seems like Dugu of the 4 Gentry clans is not going to send forth any perfected lords. The perfected lord of Stellar Luna sect sipped his tea and said idly. Dugu Jian has an introverted nature and was born from a servant. He doesn't even carry the bloodline of the Dugu clan in him, it's only normal that there's no perfected lord coming for him, the perfected lord of the Murong clan said. Born from a servant and yet, he managed to climb his way through a Gentry clan such as the Dugas to reach where he is now, defeating every other perfected being of the same realm. That's not an easy feat, the perfected lord of the Yuan clan lamented. Humph. Heavenly piercing sword Sects perfected Lord scoffed with an unfriendly expression. That lad is cold and heartless. He killed a few of my Sects geniuses. If that lad manages to get lucky and survive this vermilion fruit fight, hee. The heavenly piercing sword sect perfected Lord revealed killing intent through his words. The entire north region was shaken with the appearance of the vermilion fruit. The 10 upper sects and 4 gentry clans had a silent agreement and sent forth news that nascent souls were not allowed to get involved in the fight for the vermilion fruit so that the younger generation could fight for it and determine victory themselves. The reason why the nascent souls of the 10 upper sects and 4 gentry clans were here was to prevent accidents and stop other nascent souls from entering the Great Qian ruins. The fight for the vermilion fruit this time round had an extraordinary meaning to it. Whoever got their hands on the vermilion fruit would become the number 1 perfected being of the North region. The 10 upper sects and 4 gentry clans joined forces to prevent any nascent souls from interfering and breaking that balance. Therefore, even if Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect wanted to kill Dugujian, they would have to wait till the fight for the vermilion fruit was over. The hundreds of nascent souls standing outside the pavilion were stopped by the nascent souls of the 10 upper sects and 4 gentry sects. Anyone that resisted ended up as a corpse on the ground. For the vermilion fruit fight this time round, the perfected beings of the younger generation would have to depend on themselves. It was a massive storm and Paragons would be drenched in blood to see who would last till the very end. Suddenly, the sound of robes slicing the air could be heard. The person that arrived wore blue robes and was extremely fast. Another nascent soul had arrived. While nascent souls may not be tempted by the vermilion fruit, the appearance of the underground palace might lead to treasures within. Built in the middle, the pavilion with hundreds of nascent souls gathered around was way too striking. Glancing over, the blue-robed perfected lord's expression changed and he swerved to the side, wanting to take a detour around the pavilion. Buzz. The sound of swords swooshing filled the heavens. A white streak of sword light flashed from the pavilion like a white divine chain, almost slicing the void into half as it blocked the blue-robed perfected lord's path forward. Where are you going, fellow Taoist? The voice of the heavenly piercing sword sect's perfected lord was sinister and shuddering. Come over here. No nascent souls are allowed into the Great Qian ruins. Stellar Luna sect's perfected lord remarked coldly. The blue-robed perfected lord was rather calm as well and cupped his fists towards everyone with a smile. I truly did not know of that rule. I'll leave right now and not disturb you guys. You want to leave after coming here? Suddenly, a phantom shrouded by a black mist appeared behind the blue-robed perfected lord and devoured him instantly. Ah! A tragic shriek rang through the air. After 10 breaths, a white skeleton wearing blue robes fell from midair. The black mist cleared and a scrawny old man revealed his true appearance. With a ghastly aura and a cold gaze, he descended into the pavilion clutching a walking stick. The perfected lord of Dark Ghost sect had arrived. As of now, the perfected lords of the 10 upper sects were represented and there were also perfected lords from 3 of the 4 gentry clans. The crowd was no longer surprised at the death of the blue-robed perfected lord. Things quickly returned to normal outside the pavilion and discussions ensued. I heard that an extreme foundation establishment cultivator was born in the North region. Yes, but there wasn't any news of him thereafter. He must have been murdered. This is truly a chaotic generation with way too many paragons and monster incarnates. Even the human emperor's palace appeared. It's pretty similar to the golden times of the ancient era where multiple emperors rose. Great calamities are bound to accompany great eras. Although we are all perfected lords, the road of cultivation is one that is long. Who knows if we can tide through all the calamities? In the firmaments thousands of kilometers above the pavilion, a sparkling spirit vessel that looked like a precious gem flew over at a rapid speed. At the bow, a man in a lotus position faced the wind with his black hair swaying gently, revealing an incomparably handsome face. His skin even sparkled slightly and was astonishing. Sitting at the bow, there was an inexplicable dignity to him. While he was only at Golden Core Realm, there was a confidence in his eyes that could suppress everything. An old man stood behind the handsome man. Young master, there's no need for you to be this serious. Even if all the paragons of the North region stick together, none of them is a match for you. While the old man was at Nascent Soul Realm, his hands were placed by his side as he said respectfully. Yes. The handsome man smiled gently. My opponents will be in the intermediate ancient battlefield 20 years from now. However, the gathering of the North region's Paragons due to the birth of the Vermilion fruit makes me want to come forth and explore to see how strong the Paragons of this generation are. You're the number one perfected being of the North region, young master. How could any of those Paragons be a match for you? The old man declared with pride. There's naturally nothing to worry about in a solo fight. The handsome man replied idly, I just want to see if those so-called Paragons can stop me from getting my hands on the Vermilion fruit if they work together. Fufu, that gets my hands itchy. There were two other people sitting in the cabin of the spirit vessel. One of them wore luxurious robes and had a mask on, covering every single bit of exposed skin on his body and merely revealing a pair of vengeful eyes. In front of that person sat a middle-aged man with pale yellow skin that looked like gold. Chunyu, how about staying by my side? Don't go and fight for that Vermilion fruit, the middle-aged man said slowly. Don't worry, Grandpa. Senior brother, she is the number one perfected being of the North region. I won't be in any danger following him. The voice of the masked man was hoarse and he sounded terrible, as though he had been through a burn. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. It's also good for you to go explore and train with him. Take care of your safety. Keep this jade pendant with you, it's enough to defend against the full-powered attack of a golden core. The masked man received it and hung it on his waist. After a moment of silence, the masked man raised his head and snarled, Grandpa, you've got to take revenge for me. I won't be in this shameful state if not for Su Zimo. Rest assured he won't be able to hide for much longer. Glass Palace is the overlord of the North region. As long as Su Zimo remains in the North region, I'll be able to seek him out even if I have to overturn the earth. I'll make him pay 100 times more for everything he's done to you. With that said, the middle-aged man's eyes shone coldly and he released a shuddering, terrifying aura. Even the old nascent soul that stood at the bow was frightened and jerked briefly. That was the power of a void reversion. That was an entire major realm above him. The middle-aged man continued, I won't appear after sending you guys to the Great Qian ruins. There's a great Zhou dynasty nearby here. At that time I'll head over and ask if they've got any news of that lad. Chapter 546, Commencement of the Battle. Chapter 546, Commencement of the Battle. The birth of the Vermilion fruit shook the entire North region and Paragons were gathered. As the deadline approached, the legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects had all arrived in the Great Qian ruins. Those of the 4 Gentry clans had waited for a long time as well. In the outer perimeter, geniuses of other factions and sects were biding their time alongside itinerant cultivators, creating a force not to be reckoned with. This day. Suddenly, a heat wave shot forth from the palace. In the blink of an eye, the skies were filled with a scarlet glow, as if a blazing sun was slowly descending into the depths of the palace as it stained half the firmaments. Ha 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 ha. Taba Feng's eyes lit up and he laughed with raring battle intent. The Vermilion fruit's about to ripen. Everyone, follow me and kill our way into the underground palace to get our hands on it. Let's go. Yuan Wuxia waved his hand. Thud, thud, thud. Hoo hoo hoo. The ancient chariots of the Gentry clans tore through the voids with a rumbling sound as their war flags fluttered in a terrifying manner. The spirit vessels of 10 upper sects streaked through the air and their horns sounded with a shuddering aura. Taba Feng, Yuan Wujia and Murong Wushuang stood on their chariots and looked down at the world. On the spirit vessels, legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects stood with their hands behind their backs fearlessly, revealing fervent and excited gazes in the depths of their eyes. After the 3 Gentry clans and 10 upper sects, the remaining Paragons from all over the place surged forward like a tsunami wave. On the ground, a black-robed swordsman walked forward step by step expressionlessly with lost eyes that could not seem to focus. The strange thing was that there was no one around him at all. Although the crowd was dense, a path opened up instinctively when it encountered the black-robed swordsman. After it wrapped him, the crowd converged once more. Within the palace, a sinister wind gusted and specters surrounded them. Millions of otherworldly soldiers were gathered at this place, forming an indestructible dark cloud that blanketed the skies above the palace. Although the otherworldly soldiers in the palace were not alive, they maintained their habits from their previous life. Now that the palace was met with external foes, all the otherworldly soldiers were gathered here to guard it. Kill, kill, kill. The millions of otherworldly soldiers chanted angrily in a dense, black crowd. It was deafening and formed a torrential aura that surged over. Boom. The two opposing forces collided and the world shook, causing the partially destroyed walls left behind in the palace to collapse. One side was the Paragons of the North region. The other side was the guards of the once #1 empire of the North region that had spanned through history. Meat and blood spewed as the collision happened, and a few golden cores died on the spot while countless otherworldly soldiers dispersed, turning into malevolent chi that dissipated into the void. The otherworldly soldiers that amounted in the millions were scary. However, almost all the Paragons of the North region were gathered here. This was a shuddering force that could destroy everything. The Paragons of the 4 Gentry clans and the legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects killed their way through with various means, pushing into the depths of the palace in an unyielding manner and destroying endless otherworldly soldiers. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan followed the crowd and exchanged glances. Both could read the shock in the other's eyes. The Paragons were way too scary. If the two of them had barged into the palace and encountered these otherworldly soldiers, they would definitely be dead. Yet, before them, even as the most frightening heavy-armored mounted riders of the palace rushed over, they could not stop the ancient chariots of the Gentry clans and the spirit vessels of the 10 upper sects. The heavy-armored mounted riders could not defend against the charge of the chariots and warships and were crushed into dust. Taba Feng wielded his halberd and Yuan Wujia wielded his golden 3-pronged spear, rushing forward with immense strength to kill at melee combat. They were unstoppable on their chariots. Wang Yen of Blaze Columbus Valley hollered and his sleeves fluttered, sending forth scarlet flames that turned the otherworldly soldiers before him into ashes. Kill, kill, kill. With every word chanted by the Paragon of 7 Kills sect, his aura would increase by a fold and everywhere he passed by would end up in destruction. There was a blood mist that shrouded the Paragon of Blood Mist sect the entire time and no one could see his true appearance. However, when otherworldly soldiers approached, they would be devoured by the blood mist and vanish entirely. The Dark Ghost Sect's Paragon was even more frightening. He advanced while conjuring hand seals expressionlessly. Yet, when the otherworldly soldiers charged over, they seemed to be affected by some mysterious power. The red glows in the eyes of the otherworldly soldiers gradually fainted and they surrounded the Dark Ghost Sect's Paragon, listening to his orders and protecting him. Before long, the number of otherworldly soldiers gathered around that person increased constantly and became a massive army that pushed into the depths of the palace instead. The methods of the various Paragons were powerful and stunning. It did not take long for the Paragons to arrive at the entrance to the underground palace. Taba Feng did not pause at all and charged right in with his chariot. Yuan Wujia, Murong Wushuang and the Paragons of the 10 upper sects were naturally unwilling to fall behind and swarmed into the underground palace as well. Thankfully, the palace was huge enough such that it did not seem crowded even as the Paragons swarmed the place with their chariots. The terrifying scarlet mist in the underground palace that could devour living beings gradually faded. This meant that the vermilion fruit was about to ripen. There was no longer any green tinge on the body of the scarlet fruit and it had shone brightly with a dark red color. Even looking at it from far away, one could sense the tremendous amount of essence energy contained within the fruit. Some of the cultivators rapped over from the side and scrutinized the cultivators in the surroundings constantly, worried that they would get themselves murdered by accident. The number of cultivators gathered in the underground palace increased with the vermilion fruit in the center. All of them maintained their distance with one another with guarded gazes. Right at the front, there were more than 100 cultivators closest to the vermilion fruit. Apart from the Paragons of the 4 Gentry clans and the legacy disciples of the 10 upper sects, there were also Paragons from everywhere else. Naturally, no one was willing to display weakness when they saw the vermilion fruit. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan stood at the outermost perimeter. It was clear that they wanted to stay out of trouble. The two of them were curious as well to see who could obtain the vermilion fruit given this star-studded crowd and become the #1 perfected being of the North region, exerting dominance over everyone else. Although things were considered to be peaceful in the underground palace right now, it was filled with a murderous aura. Both of them felt shudders even though they were far from the center. The reason why everyone had not attacked was because the vermilion fruit was not fully ripe yet. Once the scarlet mist surrounding the vermilion fruit dispersed completely and it was fully ripe, an unprecedented battle between the Paragons of the North region would break out. At that time, countless Paragons would be bathed in blood. No one knew how many of them would be buried in this ruin. At the same time, 1,000 feet deep beneath the palace, a scholarly green-robed cultivator stirred awake from his silent cultivation, opening his brilliant eyes slowly. It's finally about to begin? Murmuring softly, the green-robed cultivator had a calm expression with a faint hint of killing intent in his eyes. Chapter 547, Arrival of the Monster Incarnate. Chapter 547, Arrival of the Monster Incarnate. When Su Zimo rose, he alarmed the little fox who was leaning on him by accident. She sat up and rubbed her drowsy eyes, looking at him instinctively. That single look was enough to jolt her awake fully. With a whimper, the little fox lowered her head shyly and covered her eyes with her tiny paws, grumbling internally, "Stupid scholar, you're stripping again." Su Zimo removed his green robes and revealed his almost flawless body. Going silent for a moment, a series of cracks suddenly sounded from his body as his tendons and bones echoed together. His height increased and his flesh expanded, even his features were changing. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo transformed into a burly man with rough features at 2 meters tall. With thick brows and big eyes, he no longer looked demure. The little fox stole a glance and was instantly stunned and dumbfounded. Why did he turn into someone else in the blink of an eye? I must be too tired from sleeping. The little fox could not believe what she saw and rubbed her eyes before looking again. The result was the same. She was initially flustered upon seeing a stranger. However, she calmed down in the blink of an eye and tilted her head, looking at Su Zimo curiously. Although Su Zimo's appearance changed, the unique aura he possessed did not change. The little fox spent this period of time lazing beside him and was extremely familiar with that aura. Retrieving a rough linen shirt from his storage bag, Su Zimo donned it. This time round, he was prepared to fight for the Vermilion fruit using the identity of the Divine Phoenix Island's successor. Back in the ancient battlefield, Su Zimo killed countless Glass Palace and malevolent Earth Sect cultivators. Both of those super sects were located in the North region. Su Zimo was unsure if the successors of those two super sects would move for the Vermilion fruit. However, he was certain that there would definitely be a vicious battle. If he did not conceal his identity, even if he got his hands on the Vermilion fruit, he would bring about an endless wrath and it would be impossible for him to remain in the North region. The safest way was to fight for the Vermilion fruit as Divine Phoenix Island's successor. After getting his hands on the Vermilion fruit and escaping far away, he would then revert to his appearance and no one would be able to trace it to him. Furthermore, the identity of Divine Phoenix Island's successor had already offended many top factions and it did not matter if more foes were gained. Of course, with this, he could not use many methods that could expose him. The ancient Dragonification Manual, Moon Concealment Bow, Blood Quencher and even the Coiling Dragon Seal could not be used at all. During this period of time, he had already refined his 27 supreme-grade flying swords. However, the Candlelight Sword formation was way too striking and he could not release it easily. On the surface, it seemed like Su Zimo's combat strength was greatly decreased without those methods. However, in reality, with the mystic gold silk armor and both his immortality and demonic cultivation, Su Zimo was even more frightening using the identity as the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. He was the monster incarnate that shook the entire Tianhuang mainland. The demonic existence that countless Paragons could not forget was about to descend upon the North region. At the side, the little fox seemed to sense something when she saw the murderous aura Su Zimo was exuding. He turned around and looked at the obedient little fox beside him. Although slightly reluctant, he still said softly, "I'm about to leave." Most likely, it would be difficult for him to return after this departure. He would definitely flee from the Great Chen ruins the moment he got his hands on the Vermilion fruit and would not return casually. The pitch-black gem-like eyes of the little fox dimmed gradually as she lowered her head. Her disappointment could barely be concealed. Initially she thought that Su Zimo could stay here and live with her forever. While this place was cramped and small compared to the outside world, it was carefree and peaceful. She did not feel lonely as well with a companion. But now that Su Zimo was about to leave, she would be the only one left. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo asked, "Do you want to leave with me?" The little fox had a lost expression and was silent. She was already used to this place after living here for dozens of years. Her presence was felt in every single rock and corner. Although her mother was already deceased and still, each time she looked at her mother, the little fox would calm down. This was her home. She had never thought about leaving here before. Even when she was locked in captivity by the scarlet-armored gigantic crocodile, she merely thought about chasing it away one day rather than leaving herself. But now, the little fox was at a loss for what to do and could only look at Su Zimo squarely. Su Zimo sighed internally. He could roughly read the little fox's mind. This was something that could not be forced. The man and fox looked at one another without saying anything. After a while, Su Zimo smiled. It's all right. Even though the outside world is interesting, it's also filled with danger. It might not be a good idea for you to leave this place either. The little fox had not left the cave before and knew nothing about the outside world. If she were to head out as such, she would be akin to an ignorant and naive young girl that was cast into the wilderness. There were too many people who could harm her. In the past, Su Zimo brought Monkey away from the Tsanglang mountain range and kept Spirit Tiger by his side. In the end, there was no news of the both of them for a long time after they left, and even now, he did not know if they were alive. Su Zimo was worried that he might not be able to take good care of her after taking her away. If that was the case, it would be better for her to remain here and lead a peaceful life away from the outside world. The little fox did not say anything and merely looked at Su Zimo blankly without blinking. Gradually, a mist fogged her eyes in a pitiable manner. Su Zimo was silent. A long time later, he took a tough stance and repressed the reluctance in his heart before turning around, striding away in huge steps while waving goodbye to the little fox from the back. The little fox gazed at Su Zimo's leaving back view, and the mist in her eyes condensed, turning into two bead-sized tears that rolled down silently. A long time later, the little fox sniffed and reached out with her tiny paws to try and wipe away her tears. She had a resolute gaze, as though she had decided on something. Running back to the parcel of land from which she was born, she gazed at the corpse of the demon fox. "Mummy, I'm about to leave. Although that scholar has a bad habit of stripping and would make fun of me from time to time, he's a good person and tells me stories." The little fox did not know why her mother came here. She did not know why her mother refused to leave this place no matter what. She was truly way too young during the first few years of her birth. The little fox merely had a vague feeling that her mother seemed to be guarding something within this cave. It was definitely not the vermilion fruit in the palace above the cave. For the past month, she and the human were the only ones in the cave. During his breaks while forging his flying swords, Su Zimo would occasionally recount weird legends of the mortal realm and various knowledge of the cultivation world to the little fox. She had once heard him say that in his hometown, people were buried after their deaths. She intended to bury the demon fox here as well. After taking a final look at her mother, the little fox bit her lip and tugged the massive body of the demon fox, dragging it into the scorching lava and letting it sink gradually until it disappeared. Once she was done with that, she took a deep breath of air and raised her fire-blocking basket, running towards the direction Su Zimo left in. Chapter 548, Attack. Chapter 548, Attack. In the underground palace, countless gazes were fixed on that bright, shiny scarlet fruit, and they grew increasingly fervent. Nobody noticed that a massive figure was silently approaching from the depths of the palace. The mist around the vermilion fruit had almost dispersed entirely. The vermilion fruit was completely ripe. Suddenly the air was still. There was tension and pressure. Many cultivators were motionless except for their roving eyes that darted all around. They did not even notice the sweat pouring down their faces. Given the current situation, any slight movement could cause a massive fight to break out between the Paragons. The 10 upper sects of the North region, Dark Ghost Sect, Stellar Luna Sect, Blaze Columbus Valley Shadowless Sect, Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect, Heaven Motion Sect, Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult, Dragon Tiger Sect. The 4 Gentry clans, Taba, Morong, Yuan and Gudu. Those powerful factions had lasted through history and managed to endure through the destruction of the Great Qian Empire in the past with their formidable foundations. But now, all the Paragons of the 10 upper sects and 4 Gentry clans were wary, and none of them dared to be the first to attack. Although the vermilion fruit was already ripe, it was right in front of everyone, and the person who made the first move would definitely be at a loss and would probably be drowned in the attacks of everyone. Hee hee. Suddenly Taba Feng's laugh broke the silence. The vermilion fruit is right here. Since no one dares to take it, I won't stand on courtesy. Surveying his surroundings with a raring battle intent, Taba Feng took a huge stride forward with a golden halberd in his right hand, sprinting towards the vermilion fruit with a condescending aura. Everyone present was all paragons of the North region, the strongest of the younger generation. Even those that were not from the 10 upper sects or 4 gentry clans did not feel that they were inferior to Taba Feng and naturally felt no fear. Humph. Dragon Tiger Sect's paragon harumphed coldly. Taba Feng, you think that you're qualified to take the vermilion fruit and reign supreme over the North region. Wielding 2 truncheons, Dragon Tiger Sect's paragon had a domineering aura when he stood forth. Boom. The golden halberd collided against the twin truncheons and let out a deafening bang with sparks. It was an even split. Both sides were pushed back with that head-on collision. Among the 10 upper sects, Dragon Tiger Sect was the only one that focused only on body tempering. The founder master that established it was a remarkable figure in Tianhuang mainland and left behind the Dragon Tiger Sutra. It said that at the peak of its cultivation, one can subdue dragons and suppress tigers. There was nothing one couldn't do. The twin truncheons were also known as the Dragon Tiger truncheons. The truncheon on his left hand was etched with an intricate pattern that looked like a dragon's scales. The truncheon on his right hand had black-yellow flower patterns that resembled those on a tiger's skin. The weapons that both of them used were perfect-grade spirit weapons. Initially, at the sect competition of Great Zhou, the birth of a perfect spirit weapon was enough to stir the capital and tempt countless golden cores. But now, 2 perfect spirit weapons were displayed the moment 2 paragons fought. Buzz. All of a sudden, the clear sound of a sword buzzing rang through the void. A sword light flashed. It was blazing white and tore the void into 2. The paragon of Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect had attacked and his slash sliced through the void. There was initially nothing there. However, the sword beam illuminated a figure in the air who retreated hurriedly with a flustered expression, dodging the killing move by a hair's breadth. That was the paragon of Shadowless Sect who was trying to get close to the vermilion fruit by hiding himself. However, Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect's paragon saw through him and forced him out with a single slash. The paragon of Dark Ghost Sect tapped his feet off the ground and charged towards the vermilion fruit like a phantom, but he was blocked away by a streak of fire. You. Dark Ghost Sect's paragon's expression was grim. The one who attacked was Wang Yen of Blaze Columbus Valley. A month ago he escaped from this place and with the help of seniors in his sect, healed his injuries completely and even advanced in his cultivation. He was not only back for the vermilion fruit, but also for revenge. The moment Blood Mist Sect's paragon made a move, a gigantic star appeared before him. The paragon of Stellar Luna Sect had attacked. The paragons of Heaven Motion Sect, 7 Kills Sect, Yuan Wujia, Murong Wushuang and everyone else attacked either in pairs or in 3-way fights. The situation was in complete chaos. All the other paragons of the North region seized the opportunity to strike. A long-faced cultivator relied on the speed of his movement technique and avoided a few fatal attacks in succession, charging towards the vermilion fruit. Before he could reach it, a blood mist appeared before him and devoured him completely, leaving no corpse behind. Some other geniuses that tried to close and were cleaved down by Taba Feng's halberd as well. The battle royale between the paragons of the 10 upper sects and the 4 gentry clans was terrifying as hell, and any cultivators that approached were instantly minced. The many paragons that were present were extremely conservative and did not give it their all yet. If any paragon were to start using a golden core phenomenon and cause a threat to others, it would definitely cause a chain reaction and that battle royale would turn even more bloody and cruel. Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan stood at the outermost perimeter and looked at the intense battle of the paragons with pale expressions. This was a perfect representation of how savage and cruel the cultivation world was. The two of them witnessed the person known as the number 1 golden core of Great Shang charge in only to be beaten down by the Dragon Tiger truncheons of Dragon Tiger Sect's paragon repeatedly. That person had only managed to release his golden core phenomenon halfway when he was killed by Dragon Tiger Sect's paragon and died on the spot. Geniuses of the cultivation world were absolutely worthless at this moment. Only those that could survive the baptism of blood could be considered as the true paragons of the North region. This is way too scary. Bai Yuhan remarked softly, the Paragons of the 10 upper sects and 4 Gentry clans are fighting around the Vermilion fruit. Anyone that wants to get their hands on the Vermilion fruit will have to pass by them and will definitely fail. Mu Dongqing nodded. That's right, their combat strength is truly way too terrifying. At that moment, a tall and burly figure rushed into the crowd. The burly man wore rough linen clothes that exposed his thick, muscular arms. His expression was steely, and everywhere he passed, everything was overturned as he charged right into the center of the battlefield. Another person who wants to die. Bai Yuhan shook her head and sighed gently. In this short period of time, hundreds of golden cores have already perished on the battlefield. Any Paragon that wanted to approach the Vermilion fruit would definitely be slaughtered by the Paragons of the 10 upper sects and 4 Gentry clans mercilessly. In the blink of an eye, the burly man had already closed in and was fighting against the Paragon of Blood Mist sect. There were already dozens of golden cores that had died in the hands of Blood Mist sect's Paragon by now. Controlling his blood mist, the Paragon devoured everything, and there was nothing he couldn't corrode and eat up. In fact, Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan saw some golden cores release phenomenons that were devoured by his blood mist completely. You must have a death wish. When he saw that the burly man had no intention of slowing down, Blood Mist sect's Paragon sneered and released his blood mist to engulf the former. Scram. His voice was thunderous and shuddering. Not only did the burly man not dodge or avoid, his gaze was like lightning, and when he spoke, there was a mighty aura that burst forth from his body like a surging tsunami. Tsunami blood. The pupils of Blood Mist sect's Paragon constricted and his expression changed starkly. With a torrential blood chi, the burly man forced back the incoming blood mist instantly. The unstoppable blood mist could not get close to him at all. The burly man did not stop there and extended his massive palm, slapping the blood mist directly. Poof! A huge head was lopped into the air with widened eyes. A single charge by the burly man dispersed the blood mist. Instantly, Blood Mist sect's Paragon died on the spot in regrets without the chance to even release his golden core phenomenon. Chapter 549, Slaying Paragons in Succession. Chapter 549, Slaying Paragons in Succession. The initially chaotic battlefield was met with a momentary pause with the death of Blood Mist sect's Paragon. It was too fast. Nobody expected the Paragon of Blood Mist sect to die. Less than that, nobody expected him to die against a single move from this burly man who had appeared out of nowhere. His head was sent flying with a single slap. In fact, many of the cultivators present did not even manage to catch the appearance of the burly man clearly yet. A commotion broke out within the crowd. A variable had occurred. How dare you? Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon hollered in rage when he saw that the burly man was already close to reaching the Vermilion fruit. Boom. A massive divine cauldron descended from the heavens with a blinding radiance and a terrifying aura that could suppress all living beings. The burly man's expression did not change, and he did not stop at all. His bloodline burst forth alongside 2 divine lights from his eyes as the veins on his arms were exposed while his muscles knotted together like liquid steel. He threw a punch against the air. Bang. A loud bang sounded in the air. Is he crazy? He's trying to fight against a supreme-grade spirit weapon with his bare hands. He truly doesn't know what's good for him to underestimate the Paragons of the North region as such. Remarks could be heard from the crowd. Your arm is mine. The eyes of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon shone cruelly as he controlled his divine cauldron to smash down fiercely against the burly man. The burly man did not avoid or dodge, and the flesh on his fist expanded rapidly, resembling a gigantic seal that emanated a heavy blood stench. Boom. The fist and the divine cauldron collided with a huge bang. After a momentary pause, a series of cracking sounds echoed from the divine cauldron. It was extremely tragic, and thin lines could be seen forming on the surface of the cauldron. Pust! All the cultivators present gasped in shock. The next moment, the divine cauldron was repelled more than 100 feet away and its radiance dimmed. The cultivators that witnessed that were dumbfounded, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Nobody expected that the unknown burly man would be able to take on a supreme-grade spirit weapon barehanded and even send it flying. What sort of a body was that? Could that person be wearing some sort of a perfect or connate glove spirit weapon? Otherwise, what could explain what just happened? The shock was even greater for Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon, who was directly in the fight. Blood drained from his face and his mind went blank momentarily. It was way too domineering. A single punch from the burly man nearly shattered his divine cauldron. You. The moment Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon spoke with a single word, the burly man had already arrived before him in a flash with a suffocating ferocity. Breathing became difficult for him and he had to swallow whatever he wanted to say back. Instantly, things changed on the battlefield. Although Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon was dazed, the burly man did not hesitate and was decisive to kill, slashing a cold saber in his hand forward. Blood chi spread. Not good. The Paragon of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult snapped back to his senses and realized that his life was hanging on a thread. He did not have time to think at all and released his golden core phenomenon right away. Ow. Suddenly, the tragic sound of ghosts wailing could be heard as the burly man's saber sliced through the air, distracting one's mind instantly. Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon could not support his golden core phenomenon fully and it dissipated in his moment of distraction. It's over, this is where I die. Instantly his heart sank. Poof. A saber beam flashed. A thin red line appeared on the throat of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon, expanding slowly before turning into a blood mist that stained the void. Mystic Firmament Divine Cult's Paragon was sliced on the throat and died on the spot. From the moment he appeared, the burly man had attacked for a total of 3 times and 2 Paragons died. What in the world is that person's cultivation realm? He seems to only be at early stage golden core? What? The many cultivators that were watching were shocked and used their spirit-peering art on the burly man. He's truly at early stage golden core. The voices of the crowd grew louder. However, the situation in the battlefield had turned more ridiculous with the inclusion of the burly man. After killing 2 people in succession, the burly man now had a rather empty path between him and the vermilion fruit without any obstructions. At that moment, the only ones closest to the burly man with the potential to stop him were on his sides: the Paragon of Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect and a black-robed swordsman. The black-robed swordsman's sword had been in his pitch-black sheath the entire time. Up till this point of the battle, he had not withdrawn it at all. Each time he attacked, the black-robed swordsman was bare-handed and used his finger as a replacement for his sword, killing his enemies with streams of sword chi. At that moment, the initially dazed eyes of the black-robed swordsman that could not find a focal point were starting to converge upon seeing the might of the burly man. The lights of his pupils converged like 2 extremely sharp swords that gave off a chilling feeling. Slowly, the black-robed swordsman's right hand descended on his sword's handle. He could attack at any moment. When they noticed that, Taba Feng Yuan Wuxia and the others scoffed coldly internally. In their eyes, the burly man was already a dead man. Sensing something, the burly man turned his gaze towards the black-robed swordsman. The black-robed swordsman gave him an extreme sense of danger. That was a really frightening person. It was acknowledged in the cultivation world that sword cultivators had the strongest killing power. In Tianhuang mainland, the strongest sect for sword cultivators was Sword Sect of the 9 Immortal Sections. The burly man had exchanged blows with Sword Sect's Paragon before. However, the feeling that the black-robed swordsman gave off was even more dangerous than Sword Sect's Paragon. Despite that, the burly man did not stop in his tracks. If he wanted to get his hands on the vermilion fruit, he would have to overwhelm everything with a thunderous might without any hesitation to allow anyone to react to him. How dare this unknown bastard try to get his hands on the 10,000-year vermilion fruit? Before the black-robed swordsman attacked, the Paragon of Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect on the other side lost his cool and shouted. Moving along with his sword, he appeared before the burly man in a flash. The black-robed swordsman frowned slightly when he saw Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect's Paragon attack. His right hand that was initially on his sword handle moved away slowly once more. Buzz. A blade quivered with a blinding radiance. 5 spirit patterns shone and the sword released a killing aura that seemed as though it could penetrate everything in the world. A perfect spirit weapon. The burly man narrowed his gaze as he looked at the incoming sword. His only consideration was the black-robed swordsman on the other side. However, at this moment, the black-robed swordsman had taken 2 steps back, It was clear that he did not want to join forces with Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon. Feeling relieved, the burly man swung his saber towards the incoming sword. Ow! The saber glided through the void and released the tragic sound of ghosts wailing once more, as though specters surrounded them. Puny tricks. Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon sneered and flicked his wrist, causing his sword to buzz. Clang! Clang! As the sword buzzed, it released an infinite sharpness that suppressed the tragic wails instantly while slicing the specters into dust. Chapter 550, Getting the Vermilion Fruit. Chapter 550, Getting the Vermilion Fruit. The saber and sword collided. Clang! Clang! A metallic sound rang through the battlefield and sparks flew. Heavenly Piercing Sword Sect was the only sword cultivation sect among the 10 upper sects of the North region. Their signature sword classic, the Heaven-Piercing 13 Swords, was renowned through the cultivation world, and its sword stance was peerless. Most of the time, opponents would be interrupted by the Heaven-Piercing 13 Swords the moment they started attacking and would wince in unbearable pain. The moment the Heaven-Piercing 13 Swords was released, opposing cultivators would not be able to release their skills fully. After multiple slashes, they would be disadvantaged and it would be difficult for them to turn the situation around. However, the burly man was unmoved and had a calm expression. In his hands, his saber seemed like it was sentient, and his saber technique was extremely precise. It was not inferior to the Heaven-Piercing 13 Swords, and he was even gaining a slight advantage. That saber technique. Bai Yuhan frowned deeply. Rather than precise, she saw the burly man's saber techniques as sinister. Every single slash from the saber came at a tricky angle and its trajectory was untraceable. More than that, every single slash was fatal. As Bai Yuhan gazed at the burly man's saber technique, a blurry, terrifying scene seemed to unfold before her eyes. There were plenty of phantoms. There were rivers of blood. There were white bones all around. There were walking corpses. The burly man seemed like he was surrounded by an endless hell with countless malevolent ghosts and skeletons struggling and howling within. With a terrible expression, Bai Yuhan's petite figure started trembling. Bang! She sensed a heavy push on her shoulder and woke up in a jolt. Unknowingly, she had already broken out in cold sweat. That saber technique is extremely terrifying and doesn't seem like it's orthodox. Don't stare at it, it can affect your mind. Mu Dongqing's voice sounded. Bai Yuhan nodded with a sense of trepidation. Seeing that she was already feeling that way despite not being directly involved in the battle, she truly could not imagine how Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon felt at the moment. Clang! The saber and sword collided. The burly man released his grip and the saber left his hand, wrapping around the other party's sword and slicing at the throat of Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon. That slash seemed impossible and came without warning. Alarmed, Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon retreated hurriedly. Ching! The front of his shirt was sliced open with blood seeping through. While the wound was not deep, Heavenly Piercing Sword Sects Paragon was drenched in cold sweat. He would have been killed by that slash if he hadn't managed to retreat in time. Before he could react, his vision turned blur and the burly man had already brushed by him and arrived at the vermilion fruit. With a swipe, the latter got his hands on that delectable red fruit. He got his hands on it. Bai Yuhan exclaimed, "Where is that man from? He's amazing." Mu Dongqing shook his head. The vermilion fruit had been there since the start of the battle and none of those paragons had the chance to pluck it. However, everyone knew that whoever gets their hands on the vermilion fruit would become the target of all. You mean to say, that man is not far from his death now that he plucked the vermilion fruit? On the battlefield. Simultaneously, all the paragons stopped what they were doing and everyone's gazes landed on the burly man. It's him? Finally, a cultivator from the crowd recognized the burly man and exclaimed frightfully with a trembling voice. He's the monster incarnate of Divine Phoenix Island. The burly man was Su Zimo, who had exited the cave. Tabo Fong and the others frowned. Most of the golden cores present were at late stage or perfected golden core and had naturally not seen Su Zimo in the elementary ancient battlefield. However, a few of the cultivators in the crowd had once witnessed that unforgettable scene beneath the human emperor's palace from a distance. The appearance of the burly man was etched deep in the memories of those few people. He was a nightmarish existence. Divine Phoenix Island's monster Incarnate. Although the many Paragons present were wary, none of them were fearful. All of them were murderous and wanted nothing more than to rip Su Zimo apart. To think that even the successor of Divine Phoenix Island would come for the Vermilion fruit. Interesting, Yuan Wuxia said with a fake smile. Humph. Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon had an unfriendly expression and hollered, "Since when did the successor of Divine Phoenix Island join the Fiend Sects? That saber technique earlier on was clearly the Fiend Sects Azura saber." He was not the only one. Most of the people present recognized Su Zimo's saber technique. Su Zimo's expression was calm. He had expected to be recognized as the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. He placed the Vermilion fruit in his storage bag as now was not the time for him to consume it. The Vermilion fruit had a tremendous amount of energy and he could only digest and absorb it in seclusion cultivation. Consuming the Vermilion fruit in a battlefield as such was akin to committing suicide. Now that he had managed to pluck the Vermilion fruit successfully, as long as he could escape and flee from everyone's pursuit, he would be free. "I heard that you're the #1 monster incarnate throughout history. It's time for me to test and see if you live up to that reputation." Taba Feng had a raring battle intent and slammed his golden halberd heavily on the ground. The earth split and revealed a series of cracks while gravel and sand flew everywhere. Taba Feng's aura was torrential. To be fair, most of the cultivators present had heard of the monster incarnate of Divine Phoenix Island, but there were few that truly feared him. Furthermore, most of them were at late stage or perfected golden core while Su Zimo was only at early stage. Murong Wushuang commented indifferently, "I heard that you once entered the Human Emperor's palace. I'm sure you must have benefited immensely from it." Those words caused a huge stir in the crowd. Some cultivators who initially planned on not getting involved were now tempted. Who wouldn't be tempted to get the Human Emperor's palace's inheritance? Hand over the Vermilion fruit and the inheritance of the Human Emperor's palace and we can leave you with a full corpse. 7 Kills Sects Paragon wielded 2 daggers and his eyes blazed with furious killing intent that was almost corporeal. "Ha ha ha ha." Su Zimo reared his head in wild laughter and pointed his saber at the group of Paragons blocking his path, nodding. "Good good. How overbearing. You want to kill me even if I hand over the Vermilion fruit? Let's see how many of you Paragons manage to survive me today." "Demon." Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon wielded his truncheons and hollered with a divine might, "This is not the ancient battlefield. It's not a place for you to be brazen. What can you do to me if I want to be brazen?" Su Zimo sneered and closed into the Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon with huge strides. Frostily, he remarked with an icy gaze, "Anyone that stands in my way shall be killed without mercy." His black hair danced wildly and his gaze was electric. With an intimidating aura, that figure that was over 2 meters tall seemed like it was a mighty Fiendcelestial that could murder immortals who was dashing over. "Kill?" The Paragons roared in unison and attacked simultaneously. Instantly, the void shone with a bright spirit light. 10 Paragons flew into the air, bedazzling like 10 blazing suns. Taba Feng, Yuan Wuxia and Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon, the 3 cultivators who were the most apt in melee combat, had closed in. A halberd, golden 3-pronged spear and the Dragon Tiger truncheons flew through the air. Flying swords, daggers, spears and other spirit weapons turned into streaks of light that arrived instantly with a chilling intent as well. In the same cultivation realm, who could defend against the combined attack of those 10 Paragons? Chapter 551 Massacre. Chapter 551, Massacre. The spirit weapons and flying swords came from all directions. Those who attacked could be considered as peerless Paragons of the North region. Although they had never worked together before, the moment they attacked, Su Zimo's escape paths were fully sealed. There was no room for him to dodge and he could only face everything head-on. The reputation of Divine Phoenix Island's monster Incarnate had grown too much after that battle under the Human Emperor's palace. Even if some portions were exaggerated and the Paragons were indignant, they did not dare to be careless. Taba Feng and the other 2 who were well versed in melee combat were slower by a step as they wielded heavy weapons such as the Golden Halberd, Golden 3-pronged spear and Dragon Tiger truncheons. The countless flying swords and spirit weapons arrived first as they tore through the air. Wielding his saber in one hand, Su Zimo's bloodline surged and the sound of tsunami blood echoed. With a gaze deep as the sea, he sliced viciously towards the void in front of him. That slash struck nothing and did not collide against a single spirit weapon or flying sword. On the surface it looked like it made no sense. However, after that slash was made, the void in Su Zimo's surroundings seemed like they were drawn in by some mysterious power. Spirit chi swiveled and contorted endlessly, almost turning into a corporeal and massive spirit sea vortex. Sea calming manual ripple stance. Just as the spirit weapons and flying swords were about to strike Su Zimo, they were drawn in by the vortex's power and their trajectories changed. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The flying swords brushed by him. Although it was extremely close, Su Zimo was not injured at all. Die. Right after Su Zimo attacked, Taba Feng, Yuan Wuxia and Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon attacked together as they bellowed fiercely with lit-up eyes. Their attacks were extremely precise. It came while Su Zimo was still recovering from his momentum and during the lapse of his saber technique. If one were to analyze carefully, there would be a lapse between the connection of every single saber stance. That lapse was the greatest flaw of the saber technique. If this was earlier on, Su Zimo might not have been able to handle their attacks and might even be flustered. However, after the Azura Yen Beichen's teachings and the cultivation of the title manual, Su Zimo had already made up for the flaws of the sea calming manual as much as possible. Without any pause after Vortex was released, the tide in his body churned and produced new strength once more. Swoosh. His blade swerved and Su Zimo retaliated with 3 consecutive slashes. Instantly, massive waves seemed to have surged from his blade. The glimmering light of the blade engulfed the 3 of them like a massive wave crashing onto the shore. Sea calming manual Raging Tide stance. Raging tides came after Vortex. Everything moved fluid as liquid with an unparalleled might without any delays. Clang, clang, clang. There were 3 loud bangs. Su Zimo was like an ancient god of war and did not budge at all. However, Taba Feng, Yuan Wuxia and Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon who had just rushed forward were shocked and retreated a step back respectively. The crowd was in an uproar. He's too strong. There's no wonder he's the #1 monster incarnate of history. Divine Phoenix Island's ultimate techniques are truly impressive. Fufu, it's too late to make a conclusion now. While he is strong, these top 10 paragons of the North region are not pushovers either and they all have trump cards up their sleeves. If they're really pushed to their limits, even the strongest monster incarnate in history will have to die. Taba Feng and the other 2 had grim expressions. Although it was merely a single head-on exchange, all 3 of them experienced the terrifying power of the tide that surged through their weapons into their bodies and almost caused them to suffer internal injuries. Indeed, he does have some skills. Taba Feng widened his eyes in rage. Instead of turning fearful, his battle intent intensified. Swash. Su Zimo released his plow heaven stride and arrived before the 3 of them in a single step, stomping heavily on the ground. Boom. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. All 3 of them were astonished. That extremely terrifying stance was created with just a single step of Su Zimo without any additional motions. It seemed like the entire firmament could be trampled by his step. With a domineering aura, Su Zimo was indifferent to the flying swords that came behind his back and took the first attack against the encirclement of the 10 paragons. Swoosh. The sound of a tsunami surged from his saber majestically. A torrential aura crushed down and could sink galaxies in the earth. The pupils of Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon constricted immediately. Without thinking twice, he crossed his fingers and palms like a pair of gigantic scissors before thrusting upwards. You're dead. Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon's eyes were filled with madness. If this was a one-on-one fight, he would have already released his golden core phenomenon by now. The power of Su Zimo's attack was way too terrifying and even if he could withstand it, he would definitely be injured. But right now, the situation was advantageous for him and there was no need to release his phenomenon. Behind Su Zimo, the flying swords and spirit weapons of Wang Yan, Murong Wushuang and everyone else were already shooting over. Taba Feng and Yuan Wuxia had already attacked too. If Su Zimo did not stop, he would definitely be dead. The 2 of them were extremely close. The moment he was done with his thought, Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon saw a look of mockery in Su Zimo's eyes. It was as though he could not hide his thoughts from this monster incarnate of divine Phoenix Island. All of a sudden, taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo opened his mouth and bellowed. Battle. Boom. That single roar was like a thunderbolt that struck down. Thunderclap kill. A tremendous air current surged forth. Su Zimo practiced both immortality and demonic cultivation. After he formed his cores for both Daos, the power of his thunderclap kill had increased significantly as well and had reached a terrifying state. Murong Wushuang, Wang Yen and everyone else who were standing far away shuddered and the circulation of their spirit energies paused for a brief moment. In turn, the flying swords that they were controlling paused for that split second as well. A figure appeared more than a meter behind Su Zimo. It was Shadowless Sects Paragon. Initially, he wanted to rely on his Sect's secret skill and approach Su Zimo before killing the latter. However, he did not expect that when he approached before he could attack, a deafening roar sounded and forced him out. The eyeballs of Shadowless Sects Paragons bulged out and blood seeped out from his ears, nose and mouth. Shadowless Sects specialized in stealth. In terms of head-on strength, they were far inferior to the other sections. Furthermore, he was way too close to Su Zimo. That roar almost killed him. Taba Feng, Yuan Wuxia and Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon specialized in body tempering and had strong physiques and rich bloodlines. Naturally, their endurances were much stronger than Shadowless Sects Paragon as well. Even so, the three of them were facing Su Zimo directly and they were way too close. It was difficult to imagine the impact they received. The three of them shuddered and their minds buzzed loudly, turning blank momentarily. All three of them were dazed. In a fight of this level and especially given the treacherous nature of melee combat, a moment of distraction as such, even if it was a brief moment, was enough to decide many things. Boom. The saber collided against the twin truncheons heavily. Normally speaking, Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon would definitely have been able to defend against that slash. However, at that moment of daze, his power became extremely weak. That single slash and its almost completely oppressive nature broke through the Dragon Tiger truncheons and cut down savagely. The blade landed on his head and cleaved it into two directly. Splash. His organs splattered everywhere with a nasty blood stench. Yet another paragon had fallen. Because of Thunderclap kill, the flying swords and spirit weapons that were initially supposed to pierce Su Zimo met with a momentary pause. However, Su Zimo's massacre did not stop at all. Chapter 552 Phenomenon Fight. Chapter 552 Phenomenon Fight. After killing Dragon Tiger Sects Paragon with a single slash, Su Zimo did not pause at all and swerved his blade. After countercurrent came Ripple. The extreme toughness of his saber stance turned into extreme gentleness without any sluggishness. His saber beam shimmered like water. A ripple appeared in the void and looked amazing. However, it was filled with killing intent as it crept towards Yuan Wujia's throat. Poof. Yuan Wujia's ears were ringing due to Su Zimo's roar and his mind was blank. Before he could react, his throat was swiped by the saber. A blood mist spewed out. With a horrified expression, Yuan Wujia reached out and clutched his throat hurriedly, but he could not stop the blood flow. Eee! Opening his mouth, he let out a series of strange cries that sounded like wheezes. As he staggered backwards, the color on Yuan Wujia's face drained and the light in his eyes dimmed. His legs buckled and he knelt on the ground, dying on the spot. The blade swerved once more. Ripple extended, wanting to engulf Taba Feng as well. At that moment, Taba Feng snapped to his senses and his eyes widened. Circulating his golden core fanatically, his blood chi burst forth and he slashed fiercely with his golden halberd. Kill? Taba Feng roared as well with a menacing expression. Clang. After killing two people in succession, Su Zimo's strength had already diminished. The saber was repelled right away when it collided against the golden halberd. At the same time, Murong Wushuang, Wang Yen and everyone else returned to their senses and flying swords and other spirit weapons blanketed down towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo's expression did not change at all and his gaze was frightening and unusually calm. Making use of the rebound momentum, Su Zimo retreated. At the same time, his tendons and bones rang with a cracking sound, as though beans were being fried. In the blink of an eye, that seemingly burly and mighty body made an impossible contortion. Some of those actions were completely unimaginable and his body was twisted to its limits, looking like it could snap at any moment. However, because of that, Su Zimo managed to shuttle through the many flying swords and spirit weapons by a hair's breadth. Some of the flying swords ripped his green robes, but thanks to the defense of the mystic gold silk armor, he did not suffer any injuries at all. Shadowless Sects Paragon's orifices were bleeding due to Su Zimo's thunderclap kill and his mind was in chaos, almost turning into sludge. Finally he recovered. The moment he stirred awake, he saw Su Zimo charging at him and was scared out of his wits. Su Zimo slashed in reverse and released Vortex, defending against the attacks of many flying swords. At the same time he reached out and grabbed at the Shadowless Sects Paragon's head. Golden Core Shadowless Twin Darts. Shadowless Sects Paragon retreated right away and wanted to release his Golden Core phenomenon. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo's arm expanded by 3 inches and caught up to him, grabbing his head with 5 fingers. 5 finger holes appeared. The Golden Core phenomenon of Shadowless Sects Paragon had just taken shape when it dissipated instantly. To think that the encirclement of the top 10 Paragons would lead to 3 of them dying within a couple of rounds, it was extremely tragic. The rest of them who remained were now flustered. Taba Feng yelled, "What are you guys waiting for? Kill him." Murong Wushuang surveyed her surroundings coldly. "Everyone, if you continue watching idly by the sidelines, once we lose, you guys won't be his match even if you join forces later on." At that moment, cultivators of Blood Mist Sect and Mystic Firmament Divine Cult were already at their limits even without Murong Wushuang's reminder after witnessing their paragons killed by Su Zimo. "Kill, kill, kill." Everyone chanted angrily. Their voices rumbled and almost drowned Su Zimo. Thud, thud, thud. The ancient chariots of the 4 Gentry clans moved with a thunderous sound as they shone brightly and charged towards Su Zimo. Apart from cultivators such as Mu Dongqing and Bai Yuhan who were already intending to stay out of the affair right from the get-go, most of the cultivators in the underground palace were embroiled in the situation. Humph. Su Zimo was fearless and his eyes shone savagely. Looking at the incoming chariots, he strode forward and received them with his bare body without using any spirit arts. Boom. The blood and flesh of the divine steeds pulling the chariots splattered everywhere. The chariots were smashed apart by Su Zimo. Wielding his saber, Su Zimo's bloodline surged and he cleaved left and right. No one could withstand his edge. There was no one who could stand in Su Zimo's path at all. Boom. The voids rumbled. A golden halberd with a blinding radiance tore through the heavens and descended in the underground palace with a frightening aura. The power of a phenomenon. When he saw that the situation wasn't looking good, Taba Feng did not hesitate and released his Golden Core phenomenon right away. All of a sudden, night fell and stars appeared with a bright moon in the middle. Countless stars fell with a tragic beauty, possessing a shocking killing intent. A city blazing with fiery flames descended in a mighty manner. It was so hot that the surrounding chi had already evaporated and it seemed like it could incinerate all living beings. 7 kills blood letter. 7 kills Sects Paragon roared and 7 blood-colored characters for the word kill appeared behind him, hovering in the air with a grisly scarlet shade. One after another Golden Core phenomenons descended. There were many ancient phenomenons among them that were once ranked in the phenomenon rankings. Instantly, Su Zimo was surrounded by endless Golden Core phenomenons. Golden Core phenomenons were the strongest methods available for Golden Cores. Unless they were forced to the edge, Golden Cores wouldn't use them easily. Part of the reason why the Paragons did not release their Golden Core phenomenons before this was because Su Zimo was only at early stage Golden Core. However, they did not expect that his combat strength would be this frightening and they were caught by surprise. At the same time they were worried about other variables. The Oriole stalks the mantis as it stalks the grasshopper. They were afraid that they would become the mantis. But now, Taba Feng, Wang Yan and the others truly had no other choice but to release their Golden Core phenomenons. Otherwise, none of them would be able to stop Su Zimo. Su Zimo sneered. He circulated his Golden Core. Boom. Suddenly, a frightening scene that shocked everyone appeared behind him. The mountains collapsed and the earth split. Volcanoes spewed with dust clouds falling. Scarlet lava flowed on the ground and devoured all living beings, incinerating all life. A gargantuan living being crawled from beneath the ground and soared into the air. It had a snake's head, an anaconda's body, dragon's scales, phoenix's wings and bloodshot eyes that surveyed the surroundings. The formidable power of this phenomenon was spreading. Crack, crack, crack. Some flying swords and spirit weapons could not withstand it at all and cracked. Their lights dimmed and they fell to the ground, shattered into pieces. When eyed by that massive living being, a cultivator's expression changed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Flames started igniting within his body and engulfed him rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the person was burned to ashes. When that golden core phenomenon was released, all the cultivators in the palace were stunned. What sort of a monster is this? Bai Yuhan, who was hiding far away, could not help but ask with a pale face. I'm not sure. Mu Dongqing shook his head. He merely felt that the massive living being gave off an ancient aura, akin to a divine being that looked down on the masses. That is, the primordial soaring serpent. Murong Wushuang and the others were shocked. The primordial soaring serpent had been lost for a long time and none of them present had witnessed it personally before. However, the golden core phenomenon before them was exactly the same as what was described. Wang Yin lamented internally with astonishment. The primordial divine turtle appeared a month ago. To think that the primordial soaring serpent would appear today as well. I wonder where that green-robed cultivator is. The two of them will definitely be able to fight with these opposing phenomenons. Chapter 553 Ancient Aristocratic Family. Chapter 553 Ancient Aristocratic Family. The arrival of the primordial soaring serpent shocked the world. Gulp, gulp. The primordial soaring serpent opened its mouth widely and devoured huge mouthfuls of lava. The burning lava soared into the air, forming a red river stream that entered the mouth of the primordial soaring serpent continuously. As the primordial soaring serpent drank the lava, its aura turned even more terrifying. The scales on the serpent became brighter and shone with a blinding shade of scarlet that resembled metal plates that were heated red. Kill? Tabo Feng hollered. With a grim expression, Wang Yin said darkly, he is only at early-stage golden core realm at the end of the day. If we join forces, he won't be able to deal with us. Everyone, don't hold anything back anymore at this point. Murong Wushuang declared loudly, that person once entered the human emperor's palace and is the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. He definitely has tons of treasures in his possession. We'll only stand a chance after killing him. Thousands of Paragons released their golden core phenomenons and rushed over. A single golden core phenomenon may not be able to pose a threat to the primordial soaring serpent. However, the combined release of thousands of golden core phenomenons was enough to destroy any expert of the golden core realm, even if only a rare few of them were ancient phenomenons or had spots on the phenomenon ranking. Bang, bang, bang. There were constant collisions between the phenomenons. Instantly, the golden core phenomenon behind Su Zimo swayed and even revealed illusions. The surrounding golden core phenomenons continued clashing like a flood that did not know of fatigue. Psst. The primordial soaring serpent in the void was enraged and raised its head, letting out a slithering sound as it inhaled and exhaled. This was only a phenomenon and wasn't material. However, the primordial soaring serpent retained its memories and dignity from the primordial era. It was a god of the flames. Gods were dignified and could not endure the provocations of such puny ants. Swoosh. The primordial soaring serpent fanned the flames with its wings and its eyes spewed fire. Opening its blood-red mouth, it spat out a stream of scorching lava at a group of Paragons. Crack, crack, crack. Accompanied by loud sounds, countless golden core phenomenons shattered and many golden cores were devoured directly by the steaming lava, turning into ashes without corpses. A series of tragic, shuddering wails sounded. Sensing that something was wrong with the situation, some of the cultivators retreated instantly. However, most of them were sucked in by the lava pool the moment their golden core phenomenons shattered. The more they struggled, the deeper they sank and eventually they were drowned. The Paragons of the 10 upper sects and the 4 Gentry clans were the only ones who could defend against the full-powered attack of the primordial soaring serpent. Even so, for something like Wang Yan's raging city blaze, its ancient city walls were already filled with cracks and were on the brink of collapse. In the golden core phenomenon summoned by Stellar Luna Sects Paragon, most of the night had already faded and countless stars fell. Of 7 kills Sects 7 kills bloodletters, only a single character remained and it was struggling to hang on. Of course, after that burst, the primordial soaring serpent's radiance faded as well. Su Zimo shifted his gaze and sped out of the palace's outer perimeter with the saber in his hands. This was not a place where he should linger. The longer he stayed here, the more danger he would feel in his heart. Go. Su Zimo pointed forward. The primordial soaring serpent behind him soared up with its body covered in flames, lunging towards Wang Yan who was in its path ahead with a murderous aura. Boom. Wang Yan grit his teeth and controlled the ancient city, smashing it heavily against the primordial soaring serpent's head. Opening its mouth widely, the primordial soaring serpent devoured the entire blazing city whole. Wang Yan's expression changed countless times before finally turning pale as a sheet and spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. A month ago, his golden core phenomenon was suppressed by the primordial divine turtle. A month later, it was destroyed by the primordial soaring serpent. Ranked 89 on the phenomenon ranking, Raging City Blazes was considered as a top-tier golden core phenomenon in the North region. However, Wang Yan received blows consecutively. He endured the pain of his body and shifted his steps, dodging to the side. Although he knew that Su Zimo's primordial soaring serpent could not hold out for much longer, he also knew that he truly had no way of defending against it and could only allow Su Zimo to leave. That's just him struggling at the end of the road. 7 kills Sects Paragon arrived before Su Zimo in a flash and the bloody word character behind him turned more grisly and brighter. The primordial soaring serpent swayed its massive tail and whipped through the air, slamming against the bloody word character like a thick steel whip. Piak. The blood word character was destroyed and turned into a blood mist. As though he was struck by lightning, 7 kills Sects Paragon no longer dared to block and dodged to the side at an extremely fast speed. Su Zimo sneered and his eyes flashed with a cold glint. Swash. Swinging his arm in reverse, Su Zimo tossed out his saber and it turned into a streak of light, stabbing into the 7 kills Sects Paragon's chest. The saber penetrated his body and pierced into a stone pillar in the underground palace. Its blade quivered and blood dripped from it endlessly. 7 kills Sects Paragon was already thoroughly dead. Su Zimo had a few other similar sabers of that grade in his storage bag so he did not care about it at all. Apart from Dugu Jian who was watching coldly from the sidelines, the other 13 of the Paragons from the 10 upper sects and 4 Gentry clans were already mostly killed by Su Zimo. They were either dead or injured. After killing 7 kills Sects Paragon, nobody dared to stand in Su Zimo's way. Finally his vision cleared up. Ha 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 ha. Su Zimo reared his head and laughed into the air while speeding out of the palace. It was dead silent all around the palace. The Paragons that managed to survive such as Wang Yan and Murong Wushuang had grim expressions on their faces. Even the Kaki Tabo Feng was silent. Although his golden core phenomenon was still gathering behind him, it no longer had any fierceness to it and was dark and dull. Just like that, the Paragons of the North region gathered and watched helplessly as the Vermilion fruit was snatched before their very eyes by the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. If word of this were to get out, all the factions of the North region would turn into the laughingstock of the entire cultivation world. It's over just like that? Bai Yuhan murmured to herself as she looked at everything squarely. Mu Dongqing sighed gently. Both of them had witnessed everything. The initial fervor when the Paragons of the North region gathered with their raring battle intense up till their current dejectedness after being overwhelmed by the successor of Divine Phoenix Island single-handedly. In the end there was an outcome to the fight for the Vermilion fruit. Mu Dongqing mumbled, perhaps the only way for this man to be suppressed is if the Paragons of the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects and 6 Buddhist monasteries are present. However, I heard that this monster incarnate of Divine Phoenix Island once defeated the Paragons of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects beneath the human emperor's palace. Bai Yuhan frowned and replied. Things are different now. Mu Dongqing shook his head. Don't forget that the monster incarnate of Divine Phoenix Island is only at early stage Golden Core realm right now. Just as Su Zimo was about to rush out of the palace's exit, a deafening roar of a demon beast sounded, threatening to devour the entire world. Roar. A humongous ferocious beast barged in. It had the head of a WRM, body of a tiger, tail of a snake and extremely sharp teeth with saliva drooling from its mouth. Its fangs shone sinisterly and it was extremely shuddering. Tiger WRM. It was one of the fiercest types of ancient remnant beasts with the bloodline of a WRM. After cultivation, it can revert to its ancestry and transform into an actual WRM before growing into a ferocious beast. As for WRMs, they had the chance of transforming into dragons. What was even more terrifying was that a man was riding on that tiger WRM. When they saw the badge on the man's waist, the expressions of Murong Wushuang and the others changed and they exclaimed, "The ancient aristocratic family Duanmu." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.